Hi, everyone. Carl Steinbeck here. Saturday night. Want to cover the second portion of Jen McCabe's cross-examination. Hopefully they'll get through it tonight. And yesterday's was quite the doozy. She was pretty much self-destructing throughout the whole thing. And so we're going to see more of that tonight. I'm going to get started right here. And I'll take questions periodically as we go along. Keep your comments professional. Don't want to have any words that are
what about the second
profane
document?
or abusive, so keep the chat clean, please.
Phone bill. And yes, more records from my phone.
Okay. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Before I do, I'd like to have both of those documents respectively marked just for identification. I don't anticipate entering.
Exhibits M and N for identification.
Thank you.
May I continue? Thank you. Ms. McCabe, you had a number of phone calls with Michael Proctor on January 29th, moving into January 30th and on to 31st, correct?
Are you asking her to read the records or?
Not yet. I will in just a
All
second.
right, so turn the records over, see if you can answer the questions without looking.
She can't even answer that, whether she had ongoing conversations with Proctor 29th, 30th, and 31st.
You had a number of phone calls with Michael Proctor in the days and hours following the incident, correct?
Yes, I know I had some phone calls.
All right.
Yes.
Why don't you just can't say yes? See how she's always trying to qualify everything, trying to drag it out. This is a sign of somebody that's not being truthful and cooperative.
I'm assuming you don't remember exactly the time and duration of those phone calls as you sit here.
Correct.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at your phone records that you supplied for this time period?
Sure.
There's two different.
And why is she having all these conversations over the phone? She should be at a law enforcement station. It should be videotaped. And that's the way they should conduct this investigation, not in people's living rooms and over phone calls. So highly unprofessional in today's highly sophisticated and highly technical environment we have. So just to do this over the phone and nothing is recorded. Keep in mind, folks, nothing absolutely is recorded. So they can just change and twist and deceive all they want. There's nothing that the cops or this witness have that we can really lock in and have them nailed down from the start of their testimony from the 28th and 29th of January as events unfolded.
Different documents, Ms. McCabe. One of them starts with January 29th. Can you grab that document, please?
Sure. Okay.
You should see some highlights on that document.
I do.
Did you receive a phone call from Michael Proctor at about 10:54 a.m. on January 29th, a couple of minutes in length?
I object to the form.
Okay. So you asked her if this would refresh her recollection. You need to ask her if this refreshes her recollection.
Sure. Do you remember, as you sit here, a phone call at 10:54 a.m.?
I remember getting a call. I don't remember the exact time.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at the document that you're holding as to the time of that phone call, time and date?
I see what the document says, but I just, in my head, if you ask me what time did you...
That, of course, he's not asking you to remember it. You just said you couldn't remember the exact time. You look at the piece of paper and it shows the phone logs and it can easily clarify, oh yeah, I look in here. Yeah, it was 10:29. I mean, she's trying to play stupid here is what it looks like.
call you, I don't remember.
Do you have any quarrel with the accuracy of that document?
No, it looks pretty accurate.
Okay.
It looks right. It looks possible, yeah.
All right. Did you receive, as you sit here, do you recall, does that refresh your recollection that you received a phone call from Michael Proctor about 10:54 in the morning?
Does that refresh your memory now?
I know I did receive a phone call from him, yes.
At that time?
She won't even admit that her phone records are accurate here. She's disputing her own phone records here. It's just amazing how she's trying to avoid something as simple as what time Proctor called her. That's how difficult she is as a witness and how uncooperative she is and how much she's got some other agenda going on here.
I don't know the exact time.
All right. So the answer is
Well, the phone record says that. And look how the judge goes in to bail her out.
no.
Was it mid-morning?
Yes.
Did you receive another phone call on the 29th around?
Without looking. So this is again,
right.
you're being asked questions.
I'm going to go through this with each one of these calls. There's not that many, but a few.
Okay.
On the 29th, did you receive a phone call at around 12:49?
I know I received a phone call. I, again, don't remember the time.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at that document, the next line down or the next phone call from with that number?
It's not going to, probably because she comes across as trying to play stupid, and like even phone records don't refresh her memory.
Yes, I see that there's a call on this record.
Okay. Is your recollection refreshed that you did receive another phone call on the 29th from Michael Proctor?
Is your recollection reflect you now?
Look at she just buttoned her lip. She's not talking. She doesn't want to say anything because she's waiting for an objection. This is a game of railroading the defense, just stonewall, obstruct, and just delay this out as long as you can, and just make the defense counsel basically wear themselves out. Because you got the prosecutor and the judge right in your corner pocket there.
I remember independently that.
I don't remember the specific times, no, but I do remember that he did call me. Yes.
I've never seen this before where you can't show somebody a phone record that they have. They look at, oh yeah, this is the time it shows here I had an outgoing call at such a time and it lasted for 23 minutes. She can't even say that, folks. That's how bad of a witness she is for Hank Brennan. This is really, really atrocious. And it's really agonizing to see, to sit there and you're gonna waste a juror's time talking this kind of stuff.
Okay, so there's two phone
Make
calls.
it easy.
Excuse me?
I only object to the form. I don't object to the record.
All right. So I guess the record is fine, but if you're asking it whether she remembers, you're not going to get anywhere, Mr. Jackson.
Well, then I'll
Just ask her, what is the phone? How long does that phone record indicate you talked? And who did you receive the call from before you ask that? So it's just that simple. So this is very, very bizarre how this is being drug out this way.
I'm being told that there's no objection
fine.
to the record, just the question where you're incorporating several things from the record.
Fine, then that'll speed things along. I
The
appreciate
nature of
that.
the objection.
So now she's trying to make it look like with the objection of Brennan is to form. Okay, this is really a form question when we all know the obvious what he's trying to ask, which is, well, how long was your phone call? When did the phone call start? And what time did you hang up?
Mr. Brennan.
Yes, I have no objection to the data coming in.
Thank you. I'm just going to speed things along, and I appreciate Mr. Brennan's assistance with that. January 29th, you see the record indicates a phone call from Michael Proctor, 10:54 a.m.
Yes.
You also see on that same record a phone call on January 29th coming in from Michael Proctor at 12:49 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Moving on down to January 30th, you see a record of a call at 9:51 a.m. from you to Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
January 30th, about a minute later, you see a phone call from you to Michael Proctor lasting about 22 minutes, correct?
Yes.
They should be able to.
January 30th at approximately 4:45 p.m., you see a call from Michael Proctor to you, call lasting about 10 minutes.
Correct.
Going on to the next day, January 31st, you see a phone call from you to Michael Proctor at 11:51 a.m., just before noon, lasting about 4 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Take a look at the second document, if you will. That covers that document or that time frame. The second document, you should see some highlights, and I'm going to ask you to start where there's a tab at February 14, 2022.
I would think so, Corey.
Am I looking at the second one or the,
May I approach you?
Yes.
This one? Yes.
Let me see the other document.
This one has the February 14th.
There you go. Thank you, Ms. McCabe. Taking a look at that document. And by the way, for the record, which one is that, M or N?
This is M.
M as in Mary.
Mary, yes.
Thank you. Do you see a record of a phone call on February 14th at about 3:55 p.m. lasting about 17 minutes between you and Michael Proctor?
Yes.
February 17th at about 5:19 p.m. Is there a record of a call between you and Michael Proctor at that time?
Yes.
February 28th at about 12:48 p.m. Is there a record of a call between you and Michael Proctor?
So February 20th, that's like a month away from John O'Keefe's death, and they're still talking quite a bit. That's really something to take into account. Why didn't you just give her statement once or twice? Why is there this ongoing conversation with her and Proctor?
Yes.
On the same date, February 28th, do you see a call at 4:34 p.m. with you and Michael Proctor?
Yes.
March 1st at 10:16 a.m. Do you see a record of a call between you and Michael Proctor lasting 10 minutes?
Yes.
March 1st, you should see two calls, one at 4:51 p.m. and one at 5:06 p.m. Do you see those two calls between you and Michael Proctor?
Yes. One was 1 minute and the other was 2.
Thank you. And staying on that same date, at 5:50 p.m., do you see a call on March 1st between you and Michael Proctor lasting about 12 minutes?
Yes.
And then finally on March 29th, 2022, do you see a call at about 3:27 p.m. lasting about 4 minutes?
I'm sorry, what was the date?
March 29th?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. And that's about a 4-minute call at 3:27 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Okay. And you had in fact, and that's all I have on those records. Thank you for
Okay.
that, Ms. McCabe.
Sorry.
You had in fact met Michael Proctor in person on January 29th, correct?
Yes.
He was actually in your home and personally interviewed you, correct?
Yes.
Not only did you have him in your home, it was for the purpose of a formal interview between the two of you in person. Is that right?
Yes.
That was the time that Brian Albert was there
Yes.
in your home as well.
Yes.
And you had at least, I think we went through about 14 phone calls with Michael Proctor in just the next days and weeks, going all the way up through February and March. We've just gone over those, correct?
Yes, there are calls, but you're right about the number of calls, but some of them, I don't even know if they were answered.
And of course, that doesn't, and that may be true, but you were communicating back and forth, certainly,
Yes.
in the weeks and months following.
Yes.
And that doesn't include those records, just for brevity's sake, those records stop in March. But there were more communications in April, May, June, July, August, correct?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I think initially we communicated, but I'm not sure how long it went.
Yeah, we haven't seen
So-
her.
And then I know we started communicating again in the summer of 23, I believe, or April of 23.
So you had spoken with Michael Proctor on the phone many times. We've just gone over those records, correct?
Yes.
You met him in person on the 29th.
Yes, when he came to interview me at my house, correct?
You just took the words out of my mouth. That was for a formal interview with you, correct?
Yes.
And it was in your house that you met him for that formal interview.
Yes.
And that was probably for some time. It wasn't a 2-minute conversation.
No.
Then in September or October of 2023, you were interviewed by Lieutenant Tully, correct?
I have been interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. I don't recall the date.
And you indicated just now that you began picking up conversations with Michael Proctor again in the summer of 2023, correct?
Yes.
So there were many more communications at that time, just before the September, October timeframe of 2023.
Yes, but that was in regards to something different than this case.
Not the subject matter, but you had met him and talked to him more times in the summer of 2023, correct?
I never met with him. I just spoke with him.
Okay. In that interview with Trooper Tully, you were specifically asked about your relationship with Michael Proctor when Trooper Tully sat down with you in that, I think it was a September or maybe it was an October interview, correct?
I don't remember the specifics of the interview.
He asked you specifically whether or not you had met Michael Proctor, whether or not you had any sort of relationship with Michael Proctor. Is that right?
Yes, Tracy Smith. I think the jury will be able to see through all these indicators of deceptions and dishonesty. So if they can't pick up on this through just understanding human nature of how you act when you're telling the truth versus how you're lying, then I mean, think about every single witness they've had so far. Pretty much, they've had some major credibility issues, and they got caught making some major inconsistencies. And if you're inconsistent in a major way, then pretty much a lot of stuff you have to discount and not be considered credible. So that's what we have so far. The state has really been dragging it, and I think Hank Brennan has to realize he's been doing a horrible job so far.
Right?
I'm not sure the specifics of the interview.
Isn't it true that you told Lieutenant Tully that you had, quote, never met Trooper Proctor prior to September of 2023?
No, because Michael Proctor was in my house in January of 2022.
Exactly.
The one thing I noticed, her eyes are very glassy. Notice that very glassiness to them. And so that's something unusual, and that usually indicates some kind of medication or something under the influence.
The interview with Trooper Tully, I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
The interview with Trooper Tully in that fall of 2023, where did that take place?
I don't recall.
Do you recall telling Trooper Tully that you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023?
No.
Would it refresh your recollection if you saw a copy of Lieutenant Tully's report?
I don't need to see the report.
Yeah, the dry mouth as well. That indicates there's some kind of medication or substance going on here.
Because I know I told him that I met him on January 29th when he came to my house.
So again, Trooper Tully wrote you never met Trooper Proctor before September 2023. That would be an error by him, correct?
You have to ask for an instruction.
So again, that is sustained. Ladies and gentlemen, I instructed you on previous questions regarding the same type of thing, whether another witness is lying or not. Disregard the question and move on, Mr. Jackson.
Look at how she's acting. So unprofessional. Let's back up and watch that.
That I met him on.
Would it refresh your recollection if you saw a copy of Lieutenant Tully's report?
I don't need to see the report because I know I told him that I met him on January 29th when he came to my house.
So again, Trooper Tully wrote you never met Trooper Proctor before September 2023. That would be an error by him, correct?
You have to ask for an instruction.
So again, that is sustained.
I couldn't exactly hear his question, so he sort of faded off there. But look at the way the judge is talking down to the defense attorney. Again, I'm just very disrespectful, and she's never once talked that way to the prosecutor, Hank Brennan, not once. Yeah, Teresa, I'm very condescending. It's wow. And that hurts the defendant. It's like you're telegraphing to the jury, don't listen to this defense attorney. He's again trying to pull the wool over your eyes. It's just one-sided justice here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I instructed you on previous questions regarding the same type of thing, whether another witness is lying or not. Disregard the question and move on, Mr. Jackson.
If you had told Trooper Tully, Lieutenant Tully, that you had never met Trooper.
Look at the way she's rocking her chair side to side, sticking her tongue out. I mean, it's just so unprofessional as a judge, just see something like that going on.
For Proctor before September of 2023, would that have been a truthful or an untruthful statement?
I object. I'd like to be seen.
Okay. Come to sidebar, please.
Yeah. Better fight with some case law as well, because this judge, she's going to look for every way she can to cut off defense at the knees. She's going to save this witness. And this is what we see over and over again. Look how long we waste time here.
Next question.
May I? Did you tell Trooper Tully, quote, you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023, end quote?
I had never met Elizabeth
That's not my
Proctor
question.
prior. Well, there was a,
Did you tell Trooper?
Yes, if you've seen her direct, I've not gone over her direct, but if you look at her direct and also the way she testified last year to now on cross-examination, what we've been covering here, it's like completely different person. Everything's evasive. She tries to play stupid with the question, and it's all just trying to make the questioner, Alan Jackson, sort of like he's on ice skates in a rink and he's like scrambling all over the place. He can barely stand up because she's just trying to move around so much and keep him off track. But he's doing a great job of staying on track, keeping focused. And I think the jury can easily pick up on that. She's not comfortable answering these questions, and she's stalling and buying time. If a witness is stalling and buying time, that's a good indicator that they're not telling you the truth.
Lieutenant Tully, that quote.
if I can break that quote up because it's two thick parts.
No, you can't.
So this has been asked and answered. Move on, Mr. Jackson.
Do you deny, as you sit here, telling Lieutenant Tully that quote that I just read? Do you deny it?
Sustained. Move along. The question's been answered.
Let's talk for a second about your phone calls to.
You can ask something more than once. The witness is not answering it and claiming they don't remember. That's not what I said. You can ask them a number of different ways and come at them in a different technique to try to get them to fess up. So this judge, she doesn't want to see that. If a witness says, no, I don't remember that, you better move on with this judge because she's trying to help this witness be saved from being impeached. Very, very unprofessional, and it's denial of a opportunity to present your case, and it's basically being an obstructionist to having a true vetting of the truth come out in this trial.
John O'Keefe on January 29th, 2022. I'd like to go through those calls with you briefly if I could. Your Honor, this has previously been marked Exhibit 26.
Okay.
Mr. Brennan has a copy, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you want this one?
That bad.
Thanks.
You've indicated on direct examination and earlier on cross-examination that you had multiple phone calls to Mr. O'Keefe in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
All right. This is another monotream. You're saying the question was approximately, if this trooper did write X in your report, that would be an error. I mean, that's a totally legitimate question. So again, they don't want these kind of damaging questions coming out and making this witness look even worse than she is so far. But trust me, she's looking really bad. The jury should be able to see this for what it is.
Those phone calls ranged from about 12:14 a.m. until about 12:50 a.m., correct?
There was a call at 12:14 and then at 12:18.
I'm sorry, I'm bracketing it. The
Oh,
calls
I
were between,
apologize.
that's okay, 12:14 all the way to about 12:50, correct?
Are you saying 15?
50,
Oh,
50.
50. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Yes.
You called John O'Keefe at 12:14 and 31 seconds, lasting about 49 seconds, and that call was answered, correct?
Yes.
And you see that reflected in Exhibit 26. Is that right?
Yes.
Going in reverse chronological order on this exhibit, you also see a call at 12:18 and 47 seconds, wherein John O'Keefe calls your phone lasting about 36 seconds. Is that right?
Yes.
You know that call was answered, even though it says it says unknown in the document, correct?
It does say unknown. Yes.
That 1, 2,
Red question mark is through an emoji, please.
3, 4, fifth column over. That's where it says unknown.
Yes.
But it also indicates that call lasted 36 seconds, so you know it was answered.
I don't know from this record it was answered, but I know from my memory that I spoke to him a second time. Yes.
You also made a call, moving up to the page before this, starting at the bottom of the page, at 12:29 and 44 seconds. There was a call from you to John O'Keefe's phone lasting 7 seconds, correct?
That's what it says.
And the record indicates that it was an answered phone call, correct?
According to the record, it was answered, but I never spoke to him.
You deny speaking to John O'Keefe at 12:29 and 44 seconds.
Yes.
How do you have faith in the justice system when you have a judge that just has no proper decorum and professionalism in a courtroom? So obviously biased in all her rulings, constantly rocking and swiveling her chair. And as I understand it, at some point, we may see that she fell asleep during this.
Yes, I never spoke to him after 12:18.
Okay. Moving up, 12:41 and 10 seconds. There was a call from you to John O'Keefe's phone indicating that was missed. You see where it says missed?
I do.
12:41 and 59 seconds. There was another call from your phone to John's phone, and that was also indicated as missed. Correct?
Correct.
12:43, 19 seconds.
Salem, you're saying you assume Karen can't speak her mind during sidebar. She can just listen. That's got to be frustrating. Well, I can tell you this is very unusual. I've never seen this before where a defendant goes up there for the sidebars. I would not want my client coming up there for sidebars because it's all legal talk. And I think it can make your client look like they are so aggressive in trying to defend themselves. I want my client just to sit there and look like the attorneys are doing all the fighting. You just sit there as an innocent person and let the lawyers do all the questioning. If you act like you're one of the lawyers and you're up there and you're engaged in every little nuance and every little detail of the case, then it just, to me, it doesn't come off as good. Obviously, Karen is very well invested and she's trying to fight for making sure this atrocity against her isn't going to continue after this trial's over with. But anyway, it's just something that the judge doesn't want to hear from the defendant anyway. So I don't like seeing that. I wish she would just stay in her chair, and then she could be looking all alone there in her chair, and the jury could look at her, and she could casually look over the jury once in a while. Because you know what? One of the things as jurors look at the body language of the defendant a whole lot during the trial, and if she's comfortable just sitting back and occasionally looking at the jurors and not staring them down or anything like that, it really goes to make them feeling comfortable with her, and she's comfortable with herself. Otherwise, if the defendant is always running up there with the lawyers like she's had, going up with the wolf pack to try to fight the big bad prosecutor, it just doesn't come across as good. Anyway, that's my take.
You called John O'Keefe. That was a missed call.
Correct.
12:46 and 16 seconds. You called John O'Keefe's phone, and that was a missed call.
Correct.
12:47 and 52 seconds. You called John O'Keefe's phone, and that was a missed call.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
12:47 and 52 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is her strategy, but part of it may also be these meds she's on, Leslie B, when a witness always says, I'm sorry, what has been your experience with someone like that? I've never seen this happen like this, where somebody's this bad. You look at any trial, all you guys are following true crime. Look at any trial where somebody's this bad as a witness. It's like she's the defendant and she's caught red-handed and she's trying to slick herself out of this.
At 12:50 and 37 seconds, you called John O'Keefe's phone, and that was a missed call as well.
Yes.
Ms. McCabe, there's 7 calls. That you indicate you made to John O'Keefe's phone and that were missed. Is that right?
According to this record, yes, they were
And
calls
that
missed.
comports with your memory, correct? You indicated that you had called him multiple times that morning and there were missed calls, right?
I called him, but I also think that some of the calls I might have done inadvertently.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second. My question is, that comports with your memory that there were several calls, according to the records, there were several calls made to John O'Keefe's phone, including 2 calls that you say you spoke to him, 12:14 and 12:18.
I spoke to him at 12:14 and 12:18. Yeah.
Jackson is coming across very smooth. He's not coming across overly aggressive. He has the right tone, and he's dialing it up more than he did the first trial, which is what I was recommending. So I think he has the total right tone, the right volume, the right cadence, everything that he's doing. So,
Yes.
But you indicate every single call after that was missed, and you deny making those calls.
I'm not denying it. I just don't remember.
You've previously given explanation for what those calls were, these 7 calls that were missed between about 12:29 and about 12:50. That's 19 minutes. You'll agree, correct?
Yes.
If you divide 19 by 7, that's about every 2.5 minutes or 2.7 minutes, your phone is calling John O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Correct.
You previously explained what you attribute to those phone calls. Is that right?
Yes.
What's your explanation?
I think I was going back and forth to the door. I was texting him. I think I put my phone in my pocket. I think I inadvertently maybe have called him.
What did you call it at the last hearing?
I
all this butt dialing, inadvertent calling, all that kind of stuff, it's not going to fly, especially with these younger jurors, any younger jurors on there. She's 49 and she thinks jurors are going to fall for that.
believe I called it a butt dial.
And it's not just one butt dial, correct?
There could be multiple, yes.
7 butt dials in the course of 19 minutes, less than 20 minutes, correct?
That evening, I wasn't paying attention to butt dials or calls.
See, she's trying to walk back the fact that she was obsessed with trying to find John or find John's phone. I know a number of you think that the reason that she kept calling John after 12:30-ish that night was because she was trying to find John's phone. Either way, she's obsessed with finding John and his phone, but suddenly after John O'Keefe and Karen don't come in together, and she's saying John never came in the house. Well, why aren't you calling up Karen and say what happened? Where'd you guys go? Why don't you call John? If John's not answering his phone, why didn't you call Karen? So she's completely backtracking off this. Keep in mind, she's also doing all these texts to John in between these phone calls.
I was going back and forth, listening to music, being with family. So if I inadvertently called his phone, I did.
Not inadvertently called him once, 7 times, correct? According to you.
According to the record.
She still don't want to admit it. She says, according to the record, she doesn't want to fess up to that.
And we only know about these calls because you're looking at an extraction of John O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Correct. But I also turned over my phone, so you could have gotten all of that off of my phone as well.
And you're well aware that an extraction was done on your phone and not one of those butt dials appears on your phone extraction, correct?
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
Why would she be deleting butt dials? See, the judge is now stepping in, trying to save her. Stay out of it, judge. Let the cross-examination happen.
I am not aware of that.
Next question.
It's almost like she's suggesting, just admit you're not aware of it and we can move on to the next question. And sure enough, that's what we see. It's like
And
clockwork.
not one of those butt dials appears on your phone extraction, correct?
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of that.
Next question.
Weren't you confronted with that?
This is such a garbage. I can't have words to describe how just despicable this so-called courtroom is.
At the last hearing, a year ago, whether or not those phone calls actually exist on your phone logs.
Objection.
Do you remember that?
I remember you asking previously, yes.
This is all Hank has to do. Thank you, honey. All Hank has to do is just throw up an objection. This judge is going to throw out the safety net and reel her in and protect her. This is not what should be happening in a court of law, especially not a murder trial here.
When you dial somebody by mistake, it requires several steps, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. A lot of times I just put my phone down and the next thing I know, I think it's very common to do butt dials.
So you have an iPhone.
Very common to do butt dials. Okay. What kind of phone does she have?
Is that right? Or had an iPhone.
I do, yes.
And that iPhone required a biometric or a passcode to get into to even open the phone. Mine's not open right now, right?
It's not open, correct?
And it requires, your phone required some sort of biometric interaction with the phone, otherwise known as Face ID, or you put in a code, correct?
Yes, or I could have been texting, and then after I texted, the phone was open, and I could have accidentally called John. That happens to me all the time.
It also requires you to open the phone app, correct? For instance, if you're texting, you're in the text app. Is that right?
Actually, I'm not. I'd have to sit and look at it
Well, how often make phone calls, Mr. McCabe?
every day. Every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Hundreds of times a day, right?
Not hundreds.
Dozens of times a day.
Yeah.
You have to open the phone app to make a phone call. You can't call somebody from.
Those of you with iPhones, can you jump on in here? And I don't have iPhones. I think I did many years ago. What do you iPhone users say about that? Is that possible to have 7 butt dials in 19 minutes? Have you ever heard of such a thing?
Texting app, right? Is that right?
I'm not sure. I don't know what to tell you.
There's a list of apps at the bottom of the phone.
Yes.
Messages.
Mhm.
Phone, right?
hmm
Is that yes?
Yes, and maybe
And
I
that's it.
accidentally hit the last thing, the last call. Like since I had talked to John,
Your Honor, at this point, I would ask the court to instruct the witness to answer my question.
I believe she is. Go ahead and finish.
Your Honor, no reproach.
Okay.
Good. You need to fight. You need to go after this judge. I'd be calling her out on her bias. I'd be asking her to recuse herself. She's got something going on here with connections to people, Morrissey or the other parties like Alberts, McCabe. Something's really odd here for her to be this much embarrassing herself on the world stage. And this is going to be out there for the world to see for the rest of her life on YouTube and whatnot. So for her to be this bad of a judge and not even trying to have any semblance of fairness is just really, really strange. And it just reeks to how bad Karen is being railroaded. Every time you don't get a question answered, what you're trying to pursue, I'd have a sidebar and I would have case law there and I would aggressively call this judge on her bias and prejudices every single time. All right, let me jump ahead here. Jumping ahead all these 10 seconds, they're still not back.
So let me, Ms. McCabe, answer only the question that's being asked of you, okay?
Ms. McCabe, you're aware that when you're in the messaging app, you have to do something else volitionally to open.
Look at, she's rocking back and forth in her chairs like she's mad that she had to give some ground to Alan Jackson. It's just so disgusting to see this.
The phone app, correct?
correct?
You have to touch the phone, is that right?
Yes,
That would open a separate app, correct?
correct.
Then, once that phone app is open, then you have to choose a person to call, correct?
Yes, sometimes the last dialed.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that happens to be the last dial, scroll through, pick a person, make one tap, and that calls the person and initiates the call, correct?
That is one way, yes.
But if you get out of the app, I'm sorry, if you close your phone, hit the lock.
But she didn't delete them either. She says she didn't delete them. So this whole phone history, she just says I had no part of it. I don't know anything about it. That's her testimony.
Button after a text message, none of that can happen without you having to open the phone and engage the phone additionally, correct?
If you hit the button to lock it, yes.
Right. So you indicated that these are all missed calls. Is that right?
That's what the records show, yes.
In addition to a missed call, you've had missed calls before. You both received a missed call and you've made calls that were missed. Is that right?
Yes.
When you make a call that's missed, generally goes to voicemail, does it not?
It does, yes.
So then you have to do something additional with that call. Push the end button, correct?
Correct.
Otherwise, voicemails just go on forever. And actually, they go on for 4 minutes,
Okay.
right?
I don't know how long voicemails go for.
So if you had missed calls, 7 missed calls, that's at least 14 interactions, double it, because you got to make the call, then you got to end the call. 14 interactions with your phone for a single missed call.
One
For
call.
7 missed calls.
It could be, yes.
And your testimony is you don't remember making a single one of those calls to John O'Keefe between 12:29 and 12:50, correct?
I do not remember making those calls, no.
As you sit here, do you deny making?
Look at her whole attitude. It's like she doesn't even care if she's accurate in her testimony. Her eyes look really sleepy. She looks like she just doesn't even want to be there. She doesn't even care. Really strange behavior. Compare this again to trial 1. Those of you who haven't seen trial 1, go back to her trial 1 testimony. It's like a completely different person.
Those calls between 12:29 and 12:50 to John O'Keefe.
Oh, I'm not denying that, no.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about January 29th, a little further on in the morning after you got home from 34 Fairview. Approximately what time did you get home?
I'm not sure, maybe around 11:30, 12, I'm not sure.
11:30 or 12?
It could be 11. Are you talking about, I'm confused. Are you talking about,
Let me rephrase the question.
okay, sorry.
On the night of the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, when you left Fairview.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What
Okay.
time did you get home today?
It was after 2, I believe. I'm not positive.
You went upstairs, is that right?
Yes.
You began to engage with your phone at
Yes.
that time. What application did you open up on your phone once you got upstairs?
It could have been Hockomock Sports.
I'm sorry, I'm backing up foundationally. What
Okay.
application on the phone? Was it Safari?
Oh, okay, yes. I think, yes.
Do you use Safari as your browser?
I'm not sure what I used.
You opened up a search engine as well within that browser, did you not?
I just know I Googled Hockomock Sports, I believe. I'm not sure what app I opened or how I went about it.
So Google is a search engine. You use
Okay.
Google.
Possibly. I mean, that's just an expression, but I'm not, if you could show my record, I'm not sure what app I opened
Well,
or
Ms.
what.
McCabe, you've seen this record many, many times about that search early in the morning hours, correct? You know that it was a Google search.
It was Google. Okay, it was a Google search.
Okay, so it was a Google search using the Safari app.
Okay.
You indicated that you were Google searching Hockomock Sports and something about Ozone,
Yes.
Ozone Sports or
It
Ozone
was
Basketball.
yes.
What time was it that you did that Google search?
It was when I was home up in bed. I don't have an exact time.
About 2:27 a.m., correct?
I'd have to look at a record. I don't recall
You
off the top
certainly
of my
recall
head.
that time frame, don't you?
I mean, this is a huge central part of her whole testimony. This is when they got the smoking gun. The defense got this from the FBI to show that she's out there Googling how long to die in the cold at 2:27. Nobody had any idea what was going on with John McCabe's, John O'Keefe, supposedly at that time. So why would she be doing that Google search? This is like a smoking gun showing she has knowledge of John O'Keefe when she says she doesn't have knowledge. So why would you be searching that? There's no other explanation than she knows something that happened to John before 12:27.
I know I was home and I Googled that, but I don't remember the exact time.
You do recognize 2:27 a.m.
I do recognize it, but it's not from me remembering it from that night specifically. It's from me learning afterwards.
And what you learned afterwards was there was a Google search at 2:27 a.m. Right? I mean, that's a layup, to use a basketball term, right?
There's a record, I think, of one.
Right. The record is of a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on your phone. Is that right?
I'm not a phone expert, so I don't know. I can't read.
Listen, she's gone over this so many times, so many different ways. She's worried about this 227. It's a big smoking gun against her. This is the biggest piece of incriminating information against her and her individually. And now she's just trying to just claim that she doesn't know anything. Yeah, she made it, but she doesn't know anything really about it. What time of night it was, what time in the morning. I mean, this is just so contrived, so fake in its appearance. The jury's got to be picking up on this.
You're well aware. You don't have to be a phone expert to know that there was a Google search on your phone recovered at 2:27 in the morning.
Of course, she's talked to her lawyer about this. I would ask her, have you talked to you haven't talked to your lawyer about this or the prosecutor about what time your 227 is? They didn't refresh your memory to make sure you can testify accurately at John O'Keefe's murder trial, the one you say you love.
You know that. You've been told that. You've seen it. You've been asked about it dozens of times, haven't you?
I have been asked about it dozens of times, yes.
So let's set the foundation. There was a Google search on your phone at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Which Google search are you referring to?
It doesn't matter, Ms. McCabe.
Well, I know I did Ozone and I did Hockomock Sports.
And I didn't ask
and
you
those
that.
were the only two things that I Googled.
I didn't ask you what you Googled. I haven't gotten there yet. We're going to get there. I've asked you, was there a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on your phone?
If you want to show me a report.
Sure.
Okay.
You don't remember, as you sit here, you don't remember that.
I don't.
You have no record. You have nothing in your mind about a Google search at 2:27 a.m. That's what you're testifying to in front of this jury right now.
Are you asking me if I made a Google search at 2:27?
Yes.
I don't know what time I was searching.
But you know what? She's not refuting it either. She's not saying she did it at that time. So that's actually a big defense when the fact that she's not refuting it.
For Hockomock Sports and Ozone. I have no idea what time that was.
You're well aware that your records have been pulled, correct?
Yes, they have.
You've been confronted with those records many times, haven't you?
I've been asked by you, yes.
And by others,
Good
right?
point.
Yes.
I mean, the police have asked you about it. You've been interviewed about it.
I've been asked by you.
And Mr. Lally,
Yeah, Mr. Lally asked about it, yes.
and every time you're asked, it's about a Google search at 2:27 a.m. That's all I'm asking.
It is, but it's not one that I remember doing or making or did. It's not one I did.
Great point by Haley Hopes. Out of over 4,500 Google searches on her phone, this is the only one that was deleted from her phone. Yeah, because she knows this is a smoking gun against her.
It's just one that is in a record that was misread.
Are you denying that you made a Google search at 2:27 a.m.?
If you could show me this Google search, I'd appreciate it.
I have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Look at all this time being wasted. Because she won't just admit to something that she's had to talk through and discuss and have questions about it over and over again for multiple years now.
Your Honor, I need a quick minute to find the record that I did not make aware. Fine. Can we take a brief recess? 5 minutes.
All right. Need some Z's says people who were in court
If Ms. Little wants to keep looking, we'll come to
for
sidebar.
testimony said that they don't think the jury was believing her. How could you? I mean, this is really bad. It really doesn't get any worse than this. If you have somebody that actually breaks down and confesses or pleads the fifth, they don't want to go on with further questioning because they got caught in some big lie or series of lies. That's one thing, but this is like right up there with that. It's like ongoing lie after lie, just trying to stonewall the truth from coming out at this trial. Let me go ahead and jump ahead here.
We can continue up until the luncheon recess.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe, I don't have a paper copy, but I'm going to ask you to take a look at something that we display on the screen and ask you a couple of questions about that. Can you zoom in?
I object to the way it's presented here.
But how did she know John was out in the cold? Why would she do that 227? What did she know about John O'Keefe that put him out in a snow pile at 227 in the morning? Karen didn't even know where he was at that time out in the snow or anything. She thought he was doing something to ignore her and abandon her. So
Okay. Take it down. That's not how it appears. You need to get rid of the column.
what column? Why is she noticing some column? This is not the job of a judge to object to this. This is a prosecutor's job. This is totally a prosecutor's job to object. If a document to be presented is different from one that's in the record or about to be admitted into evidence, how would this judge know this? And why would she care? This is a prosecutor's job.
That's exactly how it appears, Your Honor. That's the record.
Counsel at sidebar.
Of course, there's something in there she doesn't like. It's helping the defense, so she wants to interject and cut him off the knees again. DB, yes, she's masquerading as innocent, incompetent, and helpless damsel in distress. That's one way of putting it. Does anybody here on this chat think she's telling the truth? Mr. Swampy, she thinks if she acts like she doesn't know about the 227 house long search, she thinks the jury will assume it's just another insignificant little point and ignore it. A smart tactic, really? Yeah, I think she thinks it is, but it's not gonna come across that way to the jury. Yeah, she's trying to do rope-a-dope with the defense attorney here. That's not going to work. She's not winning points. She's just going down. She keeps circling down the cesspool of lies. There we go.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Found the paper.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience, Your Honor, and Ms. McCabe. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
You indicated you wanted to see a record, Ms. McCabe. Did you see a record that indicated a Google search? Not what the contents of the...
I just saw a Celebrate record, yes.
And did you see the time of the Google search?
On that record, yes.
Is it 2:27 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, you will agree that there was a Google search done, and now I'm going to ask about the content of Hoslong to Die in Cold, correct?
That was done in the morning at the request of Miss Reed.
Ms. McCabe, I didn't ask you that. I asked you a yes or no question. Did you understand my question?
Could you repeat it, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Did that record indicate that there was a search at some point done, at some point, for Hosslong to die in cold?
I object to her reading the record. I'll
So was there a search on that at some point?
On that paper, was there a search that said that? Is that the question?
Let's start.
So she's telling Jen what to ask. She's the one that's supposed to ask questions. She's not supposed to ask questions of the defense attorney. This is just really backwards here. Again, the judge trying to aid and abet this witness from telling the truth.
Start with that.
Yes. Yeah, there was.
Okay. Now let me ask you a different question. You Google searched the phrase Hosslong to die in cold. Yes or no?
Yes.
On January 29th, correct?
Yes.
So you agree that you were on Google, correct?
Yes.
You agree that there was a search done at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I don't recall doing a search at 2:27. The paper says it. I don't.
Okay. And you also agree that at some point that morning, you plugged into that phone, Hosslong to die in cold. Is that right?
Yes. After we found John O'Keefe.
Now, you claim that that was at 6:23 and at 6:24 in the morning, two iterations of how long to die in the cold. Hosslong to die in cold, how long TI die in CIKD, correct?
I'm not claiming it. It's the truth. It's what happened.
Yeah, keeping also the 227 search for how long die in the cold. That's right around the same time there's that butt dialing going on between the two Brians, Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. So all that time really gels together, and it makes the most sense that this was a critical time when they're trying to compare notes here and figure out what's going to happen to John O'Keefe as he's laying there dying.
You're testifying to that.
Yes, I am.
You also testified that at the time you Google searched those phrases, it was Karen Reed screaming and yelling at you, shaking you to Google hypothermia, correct?
She was pulling on my sleeve.
Is that
Yes.
yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You have discussed this Google search and the issue of the hypothermia with Carrie Roberts, correct?
I told her in the days
Yes or
following.
no? You discussed it? Or no?
Yes.
You discussed it in the days following January 29th, correct?
Yes.
You discussed it before her testimony at the grand jury, correct?
We discussed it at.
So if it's the delete column on that chart, whether that how long to die in the cold at 227 was deleted, why is the judge concerned about that? She's actually trying to bolster this witness. This is really bizarre.
After we don't talk about what we're going to say before testifying or anything like
in
that.
the 3 months between this incident and the testimony by both you and Ms. Roberts, you two did not discuss this hypothermia issue?
It wasn't an issue. It was just something she said, but we don't discuss it every day. There's no need to.
I didn't ask you to discuss it every day. I asked you if you ever discussed it.
Originally, yes, we did discuss it in the first days following all of
And
this.
that would have been before either one of you testified at the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
And we know that you were with her during her, just before her testimony at the grand jury. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're certainly aware that at the grand jury, that in prior testimony, Carrie Roberts corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded to Google hypothermia.
objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Are you aware that Carrie Roberts, well, let me ask it a different way. Have you and Carrie Roberts ever discussed the fact that she corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded that you Google hypothermia?
No.
She never told you that.
No.
Did you ever ask her that?
No.
Did you discuss your statement that Karen Reed was the one that demanded that search?
Karen Reed did ask me to do the search. Yes.
Okay, that's not what I asked you. Did you and Carrie Roberts discuss that?
Yes, we've talked about that.
Are you aware that last week
As I understand it, the only other murder case this judge has handled was the first trial that she messed up on the jury instructions among constantly trying to side for the prosecution.
Carrie Roberts denied hearing that statement.
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you been told, have you been updated that last week Carrie Roberts denied ever having heard that statement?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Yes.
Good. Way to be aggressive. Keep pushing it, Jackson.
All right, jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
All right, I'm just going to jump ahead. This is all these are 10 seconds.
Carrie Roberts denied.
One question on this, just one question on.
Here we go.
So just one question on this, just one question on this, please.
Just one, because you start peeling back the onion, you start grilling this witness and rake him over the coals. The judge can't handle that. She wants this witness protected. Come on, judge. This witness is already self-imploded. Can't believe a word she says. Patty B, imagine how much better this case would be if Karen didn't do those interviews. You know what I think, though? These interviews are starting to help her. These interviews where they show little snippets, they're trying to show things about Karen to make her be disliked. Hank thinks the jury's going to dislike her. But when you got all these kind of witnesses from the government that keep changing their testimony, embellishing their testimony, trying to sink Karen worse this second go around, and then you see Karen up on the video screen talking. Karen sounds credible and honest and frustrated and completely in a daze as to how this thing can be going on where she's being accused of something like this. So I think this is having a backfire effect on Hank Brennan and his efforts here. So yeah, I didn't like the interviews at first, but I think the way they show these different clips in there, I think after seeing these kind of people are sympathetic to Karen. So thanks, Hank. Keep it up. You got about 30 some more to go. So they're going, hey, is Karen starting to make sense, or she's the only one making sense and not lying to us?
Please, Mr. Judge.
Have you become aware from any source that last week Carrie Roberts denied having heard the statement that was attributable to my client?
No.
You read that?
No.
You've reviewed the video from the dash cam out at the scene, correct?
I've seen it, yes.
You're aware that there is no video showing my client demanding a Google search anywhere in this case, correct?
I'm not sure what cameras were where.
You're aware that there's no audio of my client demanding a Google search, correct?
Correct.
You're unaware of any witness who can corroborate your statement that my client demanded a Google search. Any witness at all.
It was just the two of us she had sent Carrie off.
So of course, Carrie Roberts is not such corroborating witness. Is that right? At least you understand that.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Carrie Roberts is not a corroborating witness for you. You understand that? You just said that.
Yes, Carrie, I don't believe heard it. She
So
was
it's-
sent off.
So it's your word and your word only, Ms. McCabe, that my client demanded a Google search. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. McCabe, you were with Carrie Roberts just before her grand jury testimony. Is that right?
Yes.
You had been with her to create a timeline of a version of events that occurred, correct?
I've never seen any witnesses to any criminal case I've worked on, and it's been in the thousands in my 35 years as an attorney, and I've never seen this happen before, where they create a timeline.
Wouldn't say a version of events. We each put down what we remembered.
She saw what you put down. You saw what she put down.
Yes.
And you compared and contrasted those with each other to create that timeline.
Yeah, this is definitely reversible error on appeal. The judge and the prosecutor know that this is happening, but they want to get a jury to convict her at least because she can then be in prison for a while until it gets reversed. And then they'll just always say, well, it was just some technicality she got off on. Nobody else is going to be pursued as the culprits for this. So that's how they think they can win this. Get a conviction any which way, trample and walk all over Karen's constitutional rights, make her fight it on appeal. And if she gets off in technicality, so be it. Their hands are washed of it, and they'll never go after the real parties behind it.
Correct?
No, we didn't compare and contrast. I said she called me, she said this, then Carrie, and someone was writing it down for us.
That would be your sister. Who?
It was my sister, yes.
Which sister?
My sister Denise
What's your last name?
Galvin.
She here?
She is here, yes.
Where is she?
She's sitting over there.
Can you point to her and describe what she's wearing?
Sure.
Yeah, Libby, see, if the group family text talk about Karen taking a plea at 4:33 p.m., but Karen wasn't arrested until 3 or 4 hours later, our text, isn't that suspicious? Well, yeah, because they're also worried about this causing a ruckus if she didn't take a plea. So, yeah, they were very much trying to decide whether they thought she was going to take a plea or not. So, yeah, that is also suspicious. I totally agree with that. Now look at her sister here. She's the one that's writing down the timeline as these two witnesses are trying to get their story straight.
She's over there in the back with the striped shirt on.
Between the gentleman in the purple and the gentleman in the black?
Yes.
So she witnessed this timeline being prepared, correct?
She wrote the timeline, yes.
And then you've spoken to Miss Roberts several times about this case
Yes.
and about your perceptions of this case, correct?
We talk about what happened and the aftermath of this case. We don't talk about the specific details as much as we talk about the aftermath of everything.
Ms. McCabe, the fact is you instructed Carrie Roberts to say that she heard that Google hypothermia statement from my client before she testified at the grand jury, didn't you?
No, absolutely not. I never instructed her to do anything.
You wanted some witness to back up your story about this Google search, correct?
No, absolutely not. I
Ms.
don't need.
McCabe,
It was said. Karen said it. It's that simple.
so you're the only person saying that, though.
Yes, and I stand by that 110%.
And the reason that you wanted another witness to back up that statement is because you knew that that Google search for Hosselong to die in cold points a very uncomfortable finger right toward you, correct?
I never did that search at 227. I never needed to instruct somebody. No, I'm sorry.
There's an apology again. Has someone told you that you need to apologize
This is really good. I'm glad he's finally bringing this out.
when you say, when there's an uncomfortable question that you don't want to answer?
No.
Have you discussed this with anybody?
No, and that's not an uncomfortable question. I'm fine to answer it.
How many times did you say, I apologize yesterday in cross-examination?
I didn't count.
Probably more than 15, right?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to answer the questions and be.
She never did it in the first trial. That's what I'd be asking her. Well, you never did it last year. Why are you suddenly changing your whole demeanor and the way you answer questions? Who told you to change your style here?
Be truthful as I can.
And you're aware that the Celebrite extraction that was done on your phone determined that of the three searches, 2:27 a.m., 6:23 a.m., 6:24 a.m., only one of them was recorded as deleted, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why? Why is this sustained? This is all reversible error, folks. They just need to get that conviction, like I said. So they don't care about Karen having a fair defense. This is absolute ash and trash garbage here. They just don't want the truth coming out. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, they can have another hung jury and she could be prosecuted all over again.
Have you ever been confronted with having deleted a Google search off your phone? You ever
Yeah.
been asked that?
Yes, by you.
Do you deny that you deleted a Google search off your phone?
I never deleted a Google search off my phone.
Can you imagine all this technical stuff? How convenient it is for her? She's got deletes on her phone, multiple ones. She's got 7 butt dials in 19 minutes that she has no responsibility for. And I mean, how's this working out so favorable for her where she just conveniently has all these tech issues happening to her benefit so she can't be held accountable on it? It's just not credible, folks. Nobody on the jury that understands phones and technology is going to buy this.
So you
I never
deny
did that. I deny it. Yes.
that you ever deleted a Google search?
Yes. I never made the search.
I'd like to move back to the time of about 6:03 in the morning, Ms. McCabe, when you, along with Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed, approached 34 Fairview. This is Exhibit 4. It's been previously entered into evidence. I think you've seen part of this exhibit. Do you recall, before we get to the exhibit, do you recall my client when the first officer on scene, do you know his name, by the way?
I believe it was Officer Seraph.
When Officer Seraph,
Yeah, that's something I would have done. And she says, I never deleted it. Say, oh, did your husband delete it then? Are you aware of who deleted it? Those kind of questions for follow-up I would do, because maybe this was planned a way where she could say, oh, well, here, Matt, you take my phone, you fix it so I don't have to, so I can claim I never deleted anything, and I can say it with a straight face. But behind that question, you need to do follow-up and say, well, who else deleted it? You know who deleted it, right? And just press her that way.
approached, he asked the question, what happened? Something like that. Open-ended question. Do you remember that?
I don't remember what he specifically said.
Do you remember my client a few seconds later saying, my boyfriend, I left him, he never came home?
I don't remember the specifics of what was said.
Your Honor, if we could, I would ask that we queue up Exhibit 4 for the jurors at runtime 420.
Okay.
Before we play this,
She wasn't a prosecutor, but she's a prosecutor now.
I'm going to play just like a second of it and ask if you can hear the volume.
Okay.
We could, Mr. Wolf. Could you hear anything?
Oh, I can hear. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know how loud it's going to be, quite frankly.
Okay.
Ms. McCabe, will you please pay attention to the audio portion of this video as this is played? Could you hear that?
I heard something.
Could you hear my client? Does it sound like Ms. Reed?
It sounded like a female.
I wish you'd say Karen every time. Saying my client is not something normally attorneys do. You want to humanize your client. So anyway, I just wish you'd say Karen instead of Ms. Reed or.
Did it sound like Ms. Reed, female?
I'm not sure. Could I listen to it again?
With the court permission one more time?
One more time.
It just makes your client more likable to jury and more down to earth if you just call them by their first name all the time. True. The prosecutors are hoping they just get a bunch of dumb knuckleheads on that jury. That's all. That's the only way they can win this case. Get some screwball knuckleheads on this jury and not have critical thinking skills.
Could you hear it?
I could hear it. Yes.
What did she say?
I have no idea.
Did she say, my boyfriend, I left him and he never came home?
I could not make that out.
You testified on direct examination that you were basically a passenger along in this ride on the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, that you were not the person in charge, correct?
I was in the passenger seat and Miss Roberts was driving.
It's a bad question on my part. Let me see if I can reframe that. You testified that it was Carrie Roberts who was basically the take charge person in the scenario between and among the three of you, Ms. Reed, and Ms. Roberts. Correct?
Yes, yes.
Not you, correct?
No,
You were just sort of along for the ride, assisting how you could, correct?
I was trying to help Miss Reed and find John O'Keefe.
If we could play a clip starting at, and I'm going to ask you, Ms. McCabe, to take a look at several clips. The first one starting at 6:21 runtime to 7:41. It's just over a minute. With the court's permission?
Yes.
When you see the state propping up witness after witness, lying and embellishing their testimony from before, they're trying to claim their memories better, and then you just flat out are being this difficult on the witness stand, and they're making obvious statements that are lies over and over and over again, then all those statements about Karen that we've heard so far, I think are making it look like she's sympathetic. She's also not coming across as like the rich elitist. If you notice, Jen McCabe has a huge wedding ring on, and so they're going to think, okay, she's trying to come across like Karen's the outsider. She's part of the insider. She's the one that's from Canton, lifelong member of Canton. She's connected with all the law enforcement types and whatnot. So this is, I think, every day as these witnesses go through and they're crashing and not able to maintain a credible posture before this jury, then I think every time you see Karen, you're thinking, Karen's the one telling the truth, not the state's witnesses. So I think this is big time backfiring on Hank Brennan. He just doesn't realize it right now. He's trying to get the jury to hate Karen by playing all these tapes. There's Brian and Nicole Albert just about 30 feet away from all this commotion and Karen hollering and screaming. And yet they're going to say they had a German Shepherd in there, not barking or doing anything to wake him up. No way.
Can you pause this? Do you recognize the three individuals in the foreground of this video?
I do, yes.
Can you start from left to right and describe for the jurors who we're looking at?
I believe that's me in the black coat. To the right of me is Miss Roberts, and on the other side of the car.
Yeah, Tom Roberson, the defense is winning the sidebar arguments because he asked the same questions after sidebars, but this flow is interrupted. That is true. The prosecutor would rather interrupt the flow and have a sidebar he loses because he wants to break the momentum. I've been against prosecutors that same way. So he just needs to keep fighting aggressively because it is paying off.
Is Miss Reed.
Miss Roberts has, just to distinguish, Miss Roberts seemed to have fur on her hood where you did not.
Yes.
If you could go ahead and play that, please. You pause it, please. Can you see who it appears you're talking to at that point?
I don't know who that is, no.
Go ahead and play it. Pause it. Does it appear that you're engaged in conversation with that person while Miss Roberts is attending to something in the truck and Miss Reed is running back and forth?
Yes, I was speaking to whoever that was.
Do you believe that was a police officer?
I believe, yes.
Go ahead and play it. Mr. Wolk, if you'll stop it at 7:41, please.
Never once. Look at Jen. She's upset. She's freaking out. She's the only one like that there.
Could you see what was depicted in the video for about that minute and 10-second runtime?
Yes.
Did it appear that you were engaged in conversation with that other person?
Yes.
When that other person walked away, could you see his jacket?
I couldn't make it out now.
Did it appear to be he was a police officer?
I'm going to assume it was a police officer. Yes.
Okay. In that video, who looks most like she is taking charge, you or Carrie Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one controlling the narrative?
That's a legitimate question to ask. But of course, Hank Brennan doesn't want to have that asked and answered, and the judge is automatically going to rubber stamp it, pretty much.
At least with law enforcement at that point.
Objection.
Sustained.
Does it
Oh my gosh. I'm not even going to play this back. Folks, this is just like I
appear
said,
in that
Ashley
video that
crashed.
you're the one engaging in conversation with law enforcement while Carrie Roberts and Miss Reed are otherwise occupied?
I am speaking with law enforcement. Yes.
Can we move to runtime 8:56? Pause it. Can you see yourself in that video?
I can. Yes.
Which person are you?
I'm in the far right.
Speaking to someone?
Yes.
Who is that you're speaking to?
I can't make it out, but it looks like a police officer possibly.
And Miss Roberts is directly in the middle of the screen. Is that right?
I thought that was Miss Reed, but I could be wrong.
Let's go ahead and play it. And at 9:26, you'll stop, please. In that video clip, who among the three of you appear to be most engaged with law enforcement at that time?
Objection.
Can you tell? Can you answer that, Ms. Reed?
Again, the judge trying to make it easier for answer. It's sort of like she's there as her guardian, looking out for her. Come on, can you answer this? If not, I'll certainly protect you if you don't want to. It's just really sort of like her mom's there. It's not a judge, it's her mom.
I mean, can you answer that, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I can. I was speaking to police officers. Yes, I was trying to help them.
Okay. Can we go to runtime 1049? This will be from 1049 to 11:55, Mr. Wolk. You pause it. Who is it that's just gesticulating in the video?
That is me.
We'll go ahead and play it.
Veto loss. What motivation would they have for beating up John O'Keefe if the dog Chloe didn't kill him? Well, I think if you understand how a lot of fights break out, there's not a whole lot of motivation to have most fights break out where even people get killed. So it could have even been an accident. It could have been just a shoving thing, and John slipped, hit his head on some kind of barbell, knocked him out, and then the dog started attacking him. He could have started wrestling with teasing the dog or something. The dog jumped on him and attacked him. And there could be any scenario of what happened. We don't have to know what happened And the jury doesn't have to know what happened to find reasonable doubt. If the prosecution doesn't have a cogent, consistent theory of what happened that has the physics behind it, has the science behind it, and has credible testimony behind it, then that's not guilty. So they have not had a consistent story on what happened to John O'Keefe. They cannot explain how he got the injuries to him that caused his death. So, and now they're probably going to have an expert that's going to change everything from what we heard before. They're not even going to call the medical examiner. So they have a moving target because they don't know what happened. And that right there is reasonable doubt.
Did you see yourself in that video, that clip, about a minute-long clip?
Yes, I did.
Who among the three of you appeared to be most engaged with law enforcement in that clip?
I was.
Runtime 2022, Mr. Wolk. Stop it. Do you see yourself in that video?
I do, yes.
You've just walked in from frame right,
Yes.
from frame right going left?
Yes, behind Miss Roberts.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's you right in the middle of the screen?
Yes, it is.
And Miss Roberts had already run through, went to her SUV, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and play. This is about a 2-minute clip for the court's edification.
All right.
And this is the last of them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the bites to the arm, that wouldn't have killed him. So that is correct. Eliza Grogan, the dog didn't kill him. The idea jump on John while he's being hit with others. Yeah, the dog could have jumped in to defend. I mean, German Shepherds are guard dogs. They're going to protect their home turf. So if there's a scuffle that broke out, there could even be a play fight that broke out and then got the dog super hyper alerted and started attacking him. And I mean, things can go really crazy in a second. So. And yes, need some Z's. Check the waterfall security cam footage. That's where it all started. Yeah, there were starting to be roughhousing and some banter going forth and back. It looked like there. So Higgins was trying to get Jen's attention, even text her. She ignored him. So there was some agenda going on back at the waterfall grill that looks like it spilled over into the house. Yeah, it looks like a dog bite more than anything else.
Well, can you pause it? Can you tell who you're speaking to there?
I think it's Mike Lang.
Go ahead and play it.
Look at all those lights, multiple vehicles with lights on, a lot of talking, engines running, doors slamming. That's a lot of noise. This jury doesn't get it that Alberts were hunkered down, trying to avoid detection.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor. Ms. McCabe, who was most engaged in that clip with law enforcement between and
was.
among you and Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed?
I was.
You noticed when Mr. O'Keefe was placed on the gurney in a prior clip and moved past you, correct?
Yes,
Did you notice what your reaction was when that gurney passed you?
I didn't know.
Did you see that you turned your back completely to Mr. O'Keefe as he passed by?
If that happened, it wasn't on purpose.
Look at her eyes.
Ms. McCabe, when you got to the scene, we can take that down.
Your eyes would be so glued on what's happening to him. You'd be in a state of panic, fear, heartbreak. I mean, your emotions just be going off the charts. And here she has got her back turned to John as he's going by on that stretcher.
When you got to the scene at 6:03 in the morning, you immediately recognized, did you not, that this was an emergency situation? High intensity emergency situation, correct?
I knew it was an emergency situation. Yes.
As a matter of fact, a man's life was in grave danger. You knew that.
Yes, I did.
And this is someone that was a friend of yours, correct?
Yes, he was a dear friend.
Not just a friend, but a police officer who was laying, as far as you knew, dying in the snow. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that you needed to get immediate medical attention, emergency medical attention to him as quickly as you possibly could. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that minutes counted, right?
Yes.
You knew that seconds counted, correct?
Correct.
This man was grasping, as far as you knew, grasping and clinging to life at that moment. Is that right?
Yes.
That's why you called 911, to get emergency personnel who are trained in CPR and life-saving measures to the scene, to the gentleman, to Mr. O'Keefe, as quickly as you possibly could, correct?
Yes.
You called 911 at about 6:03 and 35 seconds. Is that right? I don't expect you to know down to the second, but it was about a couple of minutes after 6.
Right after, yeah, we found him. Yes.
And you're aware from the dash cam that Officer Seraph got there about 6:10, almost on the nose, right?
I didn't pay attention to the time.
You'll agree with me that there was about 6.5 minutes or so between the time you called 911 and the time Officer Seraph got there. Is that right?
If that's what the dash cam says, yes.
On that 911 call, you referred to John O'Keefe as a man passed out in the snow.
Yes.
You didn't say, this is my friend.
I needed to get, like you said, emergency there. So
Did
I
you
wasn't
say,
going to
"This is
give
my
a I wasn't going to give a description and say my friend is in the snow. I was going to give them the information that I thought was the most important at the time.
Did
And
you say his name?
I just said a man because that was the most important identifying.
You didn't say John.
Eventually in the 911, I do say his name.
You didn't initially say O'Keefe, correct?
No, none of that matters. It was
Passed out in the snow. I mean, really? He's basically dead. You say he's passed out. And so that does not send the cops out and the fire department, EMS out quicker by saying somebody passed out. That's not really an emergency type situation like it is if somebody's dead or dying. And to not say this is a Boston cop, hurry, fallen officer down, she knows exactly what's going on.
the man in the snow, and
And
I
you didn't
wanted
say-
help there.
And you didn't say he's a Boston police officer or an off-duty police officer.
Again, a man needed help.
Yes or no? Did you
No.
say that?
I didn't.
Do you think that might, yes or no? Do you think that might have sped things up if they knew, if the 911 operator knew that this was a fallen officer, a fellow officer?
I think 911 comes to everyone equally. I don't think they would have.
Do you think that might have been something important to relay to the 911 officials?
I don't know.
You were even asked by the 911 operator, does anybody know CPR? And your answer was no, correct?
I'd have to listen to it to remember my exact answers.
But it was basically in the negative. No, we're not professionals.
She's been a coach, so is Carrie. They both know CPR.
We're just out here doing the best we can, correct?
I wouldn't say that, no.
You didn't believe Karen Reed knew CPR.
I didn't know. I don't think I answered that question. I don't think it
You
was
didn't-
asked.
You didn't know if Carrie Roberts knew CPR, correct?
I didn't know if they knew CPR, correct?
And none of you were paramedics.
No,
None of you are first responders.
no,
None of you are trained in emergency life-saving techniques in any way, correct?
correct.
I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
Mhm.
On all of Fairview, the entire road between Chapman and Cedar Crest, can you think of any person on that road who might have had life-saving techniques trained into them? First responder, someone who knew how to deal with someone in distress, someone with high skill level training. Do you think of anyone on Fairview who had that kind of training?
Can I now or did I then? Which are you asking?
Did you then?
No, then my focus was on John O'Keefe.
Okay, let me narrow the focus. How about on the property? How about at 34 Fairview? Could you think of anyone that was a first responder who would have life-saving training, life-saving technique training under his belt?
Yes, my brother-in-law, Brian Albert.
And you didn't go in the house, did you?
No, I did not.
When you arrived at the scene, you didn't go in? Not until much later, correct?
Our focus was John.
You knew that Brian Albert was inside the house. You'd just been with him hours earlier, correct?
Yes,
You knew that his window was 30 feet away. You're staring at it. You could look at it if you wanted to, correct?
it's off to an angle.
And you didn't go in the house then either.
I did not know.
You knew that John O'Keefe was clinging to life during those precious minutes and seconds. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And you also knew that Brian Albert, your brother-in-law, was a first responder trained to deal with people in that kind of distress, correct?
In that moment, my only thoughts were John and everything we could do
Yeah, you can ask a witness about their demeanor on the stand about being on the influence of a substance. That's a legitimate question.
for John.
And you knew that there were warm blankets inside the house. Is that right?
I did, yes. There were warm blankets in the house.
And you
Those
still
weren't-
never went in, did you?
No, I went and attended to John because once I finished calling 911, I went over to John and Kerry Roberts asked me to take over compressions. So I
And-
felt like that was more important and 911 was on the way. I
You could have ran into the house. You could have screamed. One of the things Jackson could have asked her is, can you show us how loud you're capable of screaming up to from the location you're at up to that window? Show us how loud you're able to scream. And of course, there had been an objection, but I think that would have been a good point to make. The judge doesn't allow any kind of demonstrations whatsoever. But what would happen then is she would have been embarrassed to show how loud she can scream. And so anyway, I thought it would have been a good thing to get across to the jury.
never thought about going in the house. I just thought, how can I help John?
You never thought about going in the house, but you did pull out your cell phone and make 2 phone calls, didn't you?
After I called 911, I tried calling my sister, yes.
While John was out in the cold, clinging to life, you weren't doing chest compressions at 6:07 and 6:08, were you?
I was walking over when I was calling.
You were calling your sister on the phone, weren't you, Mr. McCabe?
I was calling them to see if they would come out, but I was going right over to work on him.
And you could have walked 25 feet to the front door, walked in the house, and screamed for Brian Albert to come out and help you in those precious seconds and minutes, couldn't you?
That would have taken me away from helping John, getting Kerry blankets, giving him compressions.
And making those 2 very important phone calls at 6:07 and 6:08 that you say were not answered. Correct?
They were not important phone calls. I tried to call my sister, and then I focused on John.
They were not important phone calls, but they were important enough for you to make while John is clinging to life right there in front of you, right?
As I was walking over, I called to see if she would answer.
And she didn't answer. Let's talk about that. She didn't
No.
answer according to you.
So if we're going to talk about it, we're beyond the luncheon break.
Your Honor, I have 2 more questions,
Okay.
and I'll wrap it.
Okay.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
She didn't answer the phone, did she?
No, she didn't.
So you have a situation where a man is laying dead or dying in the front yard of your sister's house. You see nothing in terms of life inside the house. Lights aren't coming on. They're not getting up. They're certainly not coming outside, right?
They were sound asleep
They weren't coming outside, were they?
because they were asleep.
You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but
What parents wouldn't have their phone on? They got kids out and about. They have like 5 kids. They don't keep their phones on? Come on.
twice, correct?
Correct. She didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to.
This is really a much more assertive and aggressive tone and a "are you kidding me" type of attitude from Jackson. You got to have this disbelief and you got to have this commanding presence about you, and he's really doing a lot better this time around than last time. So this is really something I think is going to carry over well to show how preposterous her testimony is.
Think that they weren't okay.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone. And nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't, because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was crying she hit him. I didn't, but my focus. Can I finish, please?
You had solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't go inside the house is because you knew better. You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
She didn't answer the phone. Why wouldn't she answer the phone? You should have been suspicious. You'd want them to know. You'd be concerned about it. None of this should fool any member on the jury. Not a single member on the jury. Yes, DB, all her reactions are abnormal. Every single thing she's talking about now, about her actions there in front of that house, none of it makes any sense. They are all acting guilty. The one who's not acting guilty is Karen. Karen was easily used as a tool, and the fact that she was drinking, was probably on some medication at the time, so that had a synergy effect. So I think she had easily been suggested, like, well, maybe you did it, Karen. And if there was some kind of taillight issue, she's not putting 2 and 2 together. Then she's being told on the news that this has been put out there that they have her on Ring camera that she hit him. And so there's all these people that are just putting these ideas in her head that she hit him. And so maybe she's thinking, maybe I hit him, and she's under the influence, like I say. So, but as you look at it more and more, and the more you look into the details, you see it's not physically and forensically possible for her to have done that kind of damage. Completely impossible. So something else happened to John O'Keefe. And with that being the case, it's reasonable doubt, not guilty all the way.
You weren't worried about them at all because you knew what really happened, didn't you, Mr. King?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
That's all I have.
All right, jurors, lunch and break.
Karen McCourt, you want to know why can't anyone say the FBI is investigating, questioning witnesses? Well, if the FBI investigation is over, according to what the state's theory is saying, then what? The only reason they can't say the FBI was involved is because the FBI was investigating the actual law enforcement officers who investigated this case. So they're going to say that's more prejudicial than probative. I think it should come out. I think in order to have a fair trial, why not bring that out to show that this case was so botched that the feds thought they need to step in and look at it. But even if you don't have say the FBI was investigating, not saying that ARCA was hired by the FBI is really a travesty. It is really something that speaks to their credibility, and the jury in this case, just like the first trial, will think, well, these guys were hired by the insurance, so obviously they're just maybe slanting their testimony a little bit so they don't have to make a payout of millions of dollars. So that's why it's so important to bring out that ARCA was hired by the FBI. If I was the defense, I'd keep hammering that away and ask for reconsideration, because that can really make a difference between winning and losing this case. I mean, if they get that out that they were hired by the FBI, their credibility is automatically unwavering. It's golden, ironclad. it is, I think, the way they come across and their credibility and everything anyway. But you're going to have somebody like that former cop on the jury. If you got somebody like that again, that's going to try to trick these jurors into thinking that there's something going on that isn't, and saying this is how it really works in law enforcement, and defense don't listen to any of their witnesses on defense, case in chief, all this kind of stuff the jury can get really confused on. So hopefully we don't have anybody like that on the jury, and we'll be all right.
Let's take 1 week.
Okay, so this is the lunch break.
Follow up on my
Let's jump ahead here.
court copy clip 17.
To the court.
Okay.
The ones we have a dispute on are clip 13 and clip 15.
Okay. So I viewed the other clips. There's an objection to 13 and 15. There's an objection to them. All right. Let's play them. They're quick, right?
Yes, they are.
Play them very quickly.
It's not that we object to playing them, it's that they're incomplete. So she didn't finish her answer. So we're just asking that they explain it so she can actually copy. So we produced alternative clips. So there's 2 clips, 13 and clip 15.
All right. So the Commonwealth gets to play what they want, and then you can play yours at some point too.
Well,
I haven't
then if we don't have time, I can wait to have a hearing on this. I don't think the defense can play in self-serving statements because they think it's
Okay,
not going to
I haven't seen it. All right. I saw clip 17. I have no problem with clip 17 coming in.
I don't think they have an objection to 17. The ones that are objectionable, I know we're pressed on a Friday. I can hold them till next week until the dispute becomes more clear for the court.
Okay.
It sounds like this is going to take more time than I thought.
All right. So I need what you have, Miss Little. I need that to review this weekend. All right. Anything else?
The second issue is I should approach the side.
Okay.
Oh, second issue. He doesn't want the public hearing about it. I don't think they should have any of these sidebars when the jury's not there. They should all be publicly made available. Sixth Amendment guarantees right to a public trial. And this is not a public trial if the jury's not there. Now, in this particular case here, the jury is back. So sidebars do happen that way. They just got to make sure the court reporter's there, because of the statements of this judge, I'm sure, are going to be really helpful in showing how biased she is against the defense and how bad her rulings are. Julia Nielsen, no, Proctor was fired after the trial. Harry's mom, shouldn't AJ continue with Jen McCabe after lunch? She was breaking her. Yeah, I think that there's also a thing called, going too far into many hours and it not being productive and helpful. So I think that the timing of it is fine, and they had a lunch break to actually think about what she's been saying. So I don't have a problem with that. And I think the level of aggressiveness, like I say, he had from the first trial, second trial, is definitely much more appropriate and much more effective. So I think that's going to help him get that not guilty. Let me go ahead and speed this up here. This is a long sidebar. Again, Hank Keene trying to keep out the truth, no doubt. Yeah, they'll probably ask for the follow-up report. I'm sure that they will. There's a sister there that did the timeline, the one in the second row with the horizontal stripes, sister of Jen McCabe. Beachroom, yeah, self-serving the defense. Yeah, that's you and the judge. Exactly. Leslie B. Yeah, that former juror that's on the defense team, she's a lawyer. Gosh, if she wasn't an alternate, think about it. She would have been able to set the record straight from that cop that was the foreman. Yeah, so what did she call Jen McCabe Ms. Reed twice? Yeah, it's very disorganized trial. There's just no professional decorum. I mean, just how tiny it is and everybody's sitting on top of each other. It doesn't have any kind of semblance of a formal, sophisticated courtroom. Well, it's probably something they've been using from the 1800s, 1880s, I would say. Don't know why the judge is always acting like she's out of breath, sighing, but it comes across, seems more so when the defense is pursuing their case, their questioning.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mrs. McCabe.
Good afternoon.
I want you to briefly tell us your memory of the weather when you first arrived at Fairview, when you left at Fairview, and when you returned the next morning a little after 6 a.m.
Okay. When I arrived at Fairview on the early hours of the 29th,
All right, I'm going to
the snow was falling, just starting to fall, starting to stick to the street and onto the windshields. When I left Fairview, it had, accumulated more where my husband had to wipe the windows. And then the following morning, when we were driving there, it was dark and the snow was like coming at the car. Like it was very hard to see.
When you returned the next morning, we've seen video from the dash cam. The elements, the visibility, is that fairly depicted in that dash cam?
Yes.
No, alternates are sent home. Once the closing arguments are made and the jury's instructed, then the alternates are kicked off. That's the way it works in most state courts. So the alternates will not sit through deliberations at all. So it's really unfair to them. They got to sit through the whole thing. And right when they think they're going to go back and deliberate, then they get kicked out.
Obviously, it was lit more because of the lighting and the spotlights, etc.
From the moment that you first saw John until you went into your sister's home, is it fair to say a number of different first responders arrived?
Yes,
When the first responders arrived, did you see a number of different vehicles arrive?
I did. Yes.
Did any of them have their sirens on?
Not that I recall.
Ambulance, fire truck, police cars? Do you remember ever any siren on at all?
Not that I recall, no.
And your sister and brother-in-law, you described how you went in the house and woke them up. They never came out before you woke them up?
No, they didn't.
There was a house right next to where you found John before 34. Do you know what address that is?
I would assume it's 32.
Did you ever see anybody come out of 32 Fairview and come over to John in the scene to help out?
No.
Across the street, there's a house that's in between 32 and 34 if you cross the street.
Yes.
Did you ever see anybody come out of that house and offer assistance to help?
No.
There's a house right across the street from 34 Fairview, isn't there?
Yes.
And did anybody ever come out of that house and come over?
What's this got to do with anything? He's trying to look like, well, Albert didn't come out, and nobody else did, so it must have not been that big a commotion. I mean, you're not getting anywhere with this, Brennan.
To assist?
No.
When you were trying to help John that moment, have you ever been trained in emergency aid?
Probably 25, 30 years ago.
Your state of mind. Best describe how you were feeling at that moment as far as your focus and what was going through your mind.
I was shocked, confused, nervous, scared, anxious. My friend was lying there on the ground. I had no idea what happened. All I wanted to do was to get help for John and as fast as I could.
You saw her on the dash cam. You spoke to a number of different people in law enforcement.
Yes.
In fact, during that day, a number of different people from law enforcement, did they call you?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Move along to Mr. Brennan.
Did a number of people call you from law enforcement that day?
On the day of the 29th,
Yes.
Michael Proctor called me.
Okay. Did you speak to law enforcement after that day?
Yes.
Were you asked to engage in interviews?
Yes.
Were you asked to testify in front of grand juries?
Yes.
Were you asked to come to court and testify?
Hey,
Yes.
he's doing a lot of leading. On redirect, you're not supposed to be doing that much leading. So if I was defense, I would consider objecting because he's basically testifying more than she is. He's setting the scene for all these questions and it's just yes, no. So I'd probably object and make her have to come up with all these answers.
Did you ever once refuse to speak to the police?
No.
Did you ever once refuse to testify?
No.
When you were speaking to the police on that dash cam, it's depicted on the dash.
Karen McCord, you don't understand how an objection without a citation. This has to do with the rules of evidence up there. You can just make an objection. You don't have to state the basis. It preserves it for a later on appeal if there is one. So I think it's really bad because it allows the attorneys, this is in civil trials as well as criminal, somebody that doesn't even know the rules of evidence can just be objecting every time there's a gotcha moment in a painful moment. You don't want to hear something because it hurts your case. So you can just sort of use it as a way to trip up the momentum from the other side. So I think it's really a bad format. So it's just not in this judge's courtroom, but it's in that courtroom. The courtrooms all across Massachusetts and other states have it that way as well. But not all. That's sort of like a newer thing. That's hasn't been around that many decades.
Dash cam. Why were you speaking to the police?
Well, each officer that arrived had a set of questions of who it was, what happened, etc. So I was answering all the questions because my main focus was John.
Did you ever try to be evasive with the police?
No, I told them everything I knew.
Did you ever try to avoid speaking to them?
Objection.
The form.
Did you ever hold anything back from the police when you spoke to them?
Objection.
I'll allow that, and then let's move on, Mr. Brennan, please.
No, I didn't.
When you
He's trying to be deceptive here. He's not mentioning the FBI at all.
interviewed with many different law enforcement and people involved in this case, were you ever given an opportunity to review somebody?
Why, PP, you're saying this is a Canoni rule, not in all Massachusetts courts. Well, a judge can maybe require it differently, but I looked up the rules of evidence in Massachusetts, and that's where I found it. So that's where I'm stating that from.
Else's report after it was written and provide edits or your input?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No.
Again, totally siding with the prosecution.
When you
Over and over.
testified, are you testifying from what somebody wrote? They interpreted what you said months or years ago, or are you testifying from your own memory?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I'm testifying from my own memory.
You called 911?
Yes.
And that morning when you called 911, well, let me ask you, do you wear an Apple Watch?
I do have one, yes.
When you were speaking to 911 that morning and during that event, how did you feel?
Extremely nervous, anxious, scared, uncertain,
Do you think
panicked.
Do you think your heartbeat was up?
Yes.
At 2:27, the night before, or around that time when you were looking up Hockomock before you went to bed, were you of the same state of mind of fear and panic, or were you in a very different state of mind?
Objection.
Strike the fear and panic part. You can answer.
This is, let me back this up.
Time when you were looking up Hockomock before you went to bed, were you of the same state of mind of fear and panic, or were you in a very different state of mind?
Objection.
Strike the fear and panic part. You can answer that, though. You were the same mind or different?
Different.
What was your state of mind at that time?
I was relaxed, just playing on my phone, looking up things before I went to bed.
Do you think your heartbeat was as elevated that evening as it was the next morning?
Objection.
Sustained.
Wow, first time in a long,
When
long
you
time.
made a search for how long to die in the cold or how long to die in cold, is that something that you thought of for yourself?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No.
Why did you do it?
Miss Reed asked me to Google it.
And when was that?
That was in the morning after we found him.
And had you ever attempted either of those searches before Miss Reed asked you to do that?
No, I didn't.
You were asked questions about the next day when you visited the O'Keefe home, and you read some records. You remember those questions?
Okay, Jocelyn Pfeiffer, you saying I'm nitpicking the persecution? It's called prosecution. And you're asking how can I know all the guilty actions of Karen Reed? So I guess you're ignoring all the guilty actions of these witnesses that are coming forward and they can't get their stories straight. So what evidence do you have that Karen Reed is guilty? Can you explain that to me? And I'm taking this from a standpoint, I've been a prosecutor defense attorney rotating those positions my whole life. So I'm taking this from a standpoint of I don't come in here with any preconceived ideas. And I've been doing this off and on for most of my adult life since I graduated from law school. So if you think you have more experience than me, then probably just don't watch the channel. So start your own channel if you think you have more experience. But I'm just telling you basically on my experience, what I see happening here. And the only evidence you have supposedly is Karen Reed is what Hank Brennan's trying to say, where she talks about how she might have hit him. And they're trying to embellish now to say, I did hit him. And think about it, the fact that the FBI shows up at her house. They also have this 227 search. So she needed to embellish her testimony to try to keep the heat off her from law enforcement, the FBI type. So all these other people have motives. So if you just want to like not look at all that and only focus on Karen, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So anyway, I'm just telling it like it is. I came into this case not knowing enough about it initially, but as I've done a deep dive and look into all this evidence, it's really looking like the state has no case whatsoever. What attorney do you see that really knows a lot about this case that is saying that they have that Karen Reed is guilty? Even a judge up there in Massachusetts is talking about how this court is run is a hot mess, basically, with this judge just completely railroading the defense. So if you're not concerned about due process of law and the constitutional requirements, and you think people can just be strung up because somebody says, oh, hey, I hit him. What kind of idiot says I hit him however many times if they just got done trying to kill somebody? Is Karen Reed really that stupid that she would just openly admit to that? Things can easily evolve also in terms of what somebody says. Cops can also plant information in people's minds. How do we know the firefighter didn't have some words planted in his head? When did the firefighter make that statement? Well, that hasn't come out in the testimony of these officers, these firefighters, or when they actually made a statement to law enforcement and have that memorialized that, hey, I heard her say twice, I hit him. So this whole thing can easily be spun out of control, and cops can come up to somebody and say, hey, did you hear Karen also say I hit him? You heard that too, right? I mean, it's that simple. And then somebody's wanting to help the prosecutor nail somebody that they think is guilty of murder. And so they'll say, yeah, I recall that as well. And the next thing you know, they just by that being planted in their mind, then they start to believe it as well. So that's how things can easily morph out of control. And so as we've seen, these witnesses are not credible for the state. And so there's not a single juror in the first trial that thought Karen Reed was even guilty of murder. And that's even with a cop. They even had a cop on the jury there who'd served 4 years, at least 4 years as a cop for some other small town in Massachusetts. So even that jury did not a single one of them thought Karen Reed is guilty of murder. So this thing's way out of control. It's way overcharged. And so anyway, like I say, if you think I'm so off, then go follow some other channel.
Yes,
Do you remember going to the O'Keefe home?
I do. Yes.
You went with who?
With Carrie and our 2 daughters.
Do you remember how many hours you spent with the O'Keefe family?
I don't remember how many hours, say a few.
Was it over 3 or 4?
Could have been, I'm not sure.
What is the reason that you spend so much time at the O'Keefe home the next day?
We went over to offer support, love, comfort, to be with them.
You weren't avoiding them, were you?
No.
Sustained.
After you left the O'Keefe home and reading the records, I don't know if this is your memory, it was suggested it was 5:12. Do you remember going to Fairview?
I remember driving by Fairview on the way to Mike Lank's.
When you went to Fairview, you asked questions about when you stopped by, whether that meant you went in or were outside. Do you remember whether you went in or were outside?
We never went in.
Have you seen your phone records that there are no calls to your...
Julie Nielsen, please explain, does the prosecutor go over evidence with their witnesses prior to their testimony? Yes, they do. And so Hank Brennan, that this is the trial of his lifetime, and he's not going to go over this witness that's got all this baggage, and he's not going to over and prep her and try to minimize the baggage. Look how bad she's coming across. But it's really funny because for Hank Brennan to think that this is helping his case, that Jen McCabe is credible, I think he's really delusional here. And him thinking he's going to play all those snippets of Karen to make her look bad. So it's gonna backfire on him. That's what I'm convinced of.
Sister, when you went by Fairview at that time?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I haven't, no.
And when you went by, you were asked about that. In fact, you had been asked about that before, hadn't you? Whether
Yeah.
you stopped by?
Yes,
And Attorney Jackson showed you part of that statement.
yes,
Did you, when you were saying that's part of the statement, did you read the whole statement to yourself?
I did.
And to put that in completeness, had you, under oath, talked about the fact that you went by that day?
I'm confused by your question.
Okay, may I approach?
Yes.
Okay. You were shown page 181 and then 182?
Yes,
And so when you were asked about that before, had you in fact offered under oath that you did go by Fairview?
yes,
When you stopped by Fairview, according to the questions you were asked, or the records you were asked to read, it was 4 minutes you stopped by Fairview. Does that sound like your memory?
no, I know we drove by, slowed down, and we were looking outside.
You just don't get it, Jocelyn. So you can go to another channel. That's fine.
Why did you want to go back to the very scene that you had seen that morning?
I think Carrie and I I'm not really sure. I think we just drove down and we,
All right, so your answer is not really sure.
Okay.
Next question.
And then according to the records that were read to you, you went to Detective Lanks?
He's got to be feeling it already that, oh my gosh, this thing is not going well. He can't be happy. If he has any ability to really think outside the box and how he's really doing, he's got to be thinking he's not done anything to prove his case yet. We've already had 2 weeks testimony. JC, what happens if the prosecutor knows his client is guilty? Okay, a prosecutor's client is the state. Victims are not the client of the prosecution team. So just want to make that distinguishment. The defense attorneys have a client, but the loyalty of the prosecutor is to the state. So there's not an attorney-client privilege with the victim and the prosecutor. And so if they know a so-called witness is guilty or a victim, then I've seen that happen where they believe, well, it's happened to me where I've been a prosecutor and I had a victim and she lied to me. And so I reported that to defense and it changed the outcome of the case. If you know somebody's lying, you have duty to report that. It's exculpatory. You got to report it to the defense. So here, I mean, you're telling me a prosecutor can't figure out that she's just full of holes. She's incredulous. She can't believe what she's saying. But I see it over and over again. Prosecutors just prop up a witness. They want to get a conviction. It's all about getting the conviction and getting the win. And the truth really gets lost in the whole process. It's not about the truth. It's about getting that big conviction.
House?
yes,
And you were at that address for about 40 minutes, 50 minutes?
yes,
You were read or shown certain text messages between you and some of your family.
yes.
Was that a complete listing of the text messages in order that were on your phone?
I had a lot of text messages with them on my phone. Yes.
Were some missing from what you were shown?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You were asked about your state of mind. I'm going to ask you about some of those text messages in a minute.
Mhm.
You were asked about calls and text messages to John O'Keefe.
Yes.
Have you ever inadvertently called anybody?
I mean, what prosecutor believed her story about all these deletions, all this calls she didn't make? I mean, it's absolute garbage. It's absolute garbage. You just got to stick your hand and play stupid. Just ignore all these lies. That's all you can do as a prosecutor to try to salvage your case. Is just act, and then you prop this up in front of a jury. If the jury is not utterly insulted and outraged that a prosecutor can try to treat them like they're just stupid, that they can't figure out this witness is just openly over and over and over again, just coming up with the worst concocted stories. Wake up, jurors. You better be awake and see what's going on.
before on your iPhone?
I'll allow it.
Yes, many times.
And you were asked whether or not you remembered or knew that those calls were made to Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
Did you purposely make those calls?
No, I do not believe so.
If you inadvertently called on purpose, it wouldn't be inadvertent, would it?
True.
Did John ever answer any of your calls after that 1218 call?
No, he didn't.
And when you were reaching out to him, did you reach out to him the next morning after you heard from the defendant?
I did, yes.
What?
No, next question, Mr. Wood.
Why were you reaching out to him?
Because I was trying to get in touch with him because Miss Reed said he didn't come home.
Kehlani, thank you. You're asking how common, uncommon is it in the USA for county to bring in an outsider lawyer such as saying it's really rare. I've seen if there's a conflict with the attorney's office, they bring in somebody from the attorney general's office. So if it's district attorney, they bring in somebody from another district. There's conflict. But bringing in an outsider, especially a criminal defense lawyer, a mob lawyer, they need a mob lawyer to prosecute this case. I've never seen such a thing. And I think bringing a non-lawyer from the government, an outside lawyer in, a private practice attorney in, as a special appointed counsel to go after a single person, I think it's unconstitutional. It's basically targeting. It violates due process. It's prejudicial to good order. And I think that it's very much in a prime example here where they're in it to win. They're not in it for justice sake. They're not going to pay somebody $250,000 to just come up with a mistrial. And they need that conviction. They don't want to see a not guilty verdict. So how are they going to get it when you got this much of a loser case? You got to keep the truth out. And that's what I've been saying. And so, yeah, this is, I think, unconstitutional in and of itself. You don't really see that from the state. You have some big cases that once in a while happen with the feds. But like I say, I think it's just really shameful for the governments to ever do that, whether state or federal. And so anyway, that's my take on it.
You were asked about your state of mind over the next couple of days.
Yes.
And I'd like to ask you about some of the text messages reflecting your full state of mind over the next couple of days.
This has to be really brief.
Yep. It's really insult to intelligence. Okay, the one thing I'm wondering about is why didn't this information come out about this whole deal about Jen McCabe paying someone or giving her money and a couch to harass the defense and Karen Reed? So is there not any truth to that? Why didn't they bring this up? Or maybe there's a motion in limine we didn't know about. So I just wish the defense could have probed on that on cross-examination, but I guess it doesn't matter. But I thought that could have helped derail the case beforehand. So not sure what that is, but I think there's a lot of dirty dealing behind the scenes. And for her to sit there and say she wasn't prepped as a witness, as much as she's prepping and talking with Proctor, you're telling me she's not doing the same thing with Hank Brennan? And she's also got a lawyer. I don't know if that was suppressed from coming out at trial as well, but that's perfectly ripe cross-examination. So anyway, I think this whole case, if there's a conviction of any kind, it will definitely get busted on appeal. Even a judge there, Judge Erskine, a retired judge there in Massachusetts, said something along the lines of this case would get reversed on appeal. All right, let me jump ahead here.
All right, jurors, you're about to hear some evidence. And remember, I told you this morning that before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it is more likely true than not that the person who authored or created or sent, transmitted this communication was in fact the person alleged to have done so. If you do not find it is more likely true than not that the person alleged to have transmitted, created these messages, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding this case. And remember, what you're about to hear, you're not to use for the truth of the statement. It goes simply to the state of mind of Ms. McCabe at the time of the message. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you. May I approach with a copy for the witness?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I first came in this trial, I was just had the opinion that I didn't say Karen Reed was innocent. I just said there's not been any evidence to show she should be convicted because the state has not proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. So then when I did more of a deep dive on the case, that's when I came to a realization that she basically has an alibi. And if you have an alibi and you weren't there, and the alibi is further supported even by this prosecutor trying to change the timeline now. So we had 2 timeline changes in the first trial. Now they're doing it a third time. I mean, it's game over. This thing is pretty much dead on arrival.
Jeez.
When law enforcement asks for your phone, was there any requirement you give that to them?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you voluntarily consent to give your entire phone to law enforcement?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Yes, I did.
I handed you a document
Yeah, after she had her husband clean it out and had all those things deleted, or else she did it.
that reflects your text messages from that morning and the next day. You were asked about some of them on the screen. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And you were asked how that affected your state of mind and the decisions that you were making. Correct?
Yes.
I want to read along and I'll indicate.
That's the alibi I was talking about, Gina Gomez. You're asking how Jen could have seen Karen's car at 12:45 when Karen's phone connected to John's Wi-Fi at 12:36. That's the alibi I was talking about.
If you look at the number on the left, and then I'll read it and you can let me know if I read it accurately.
Okay.
Starting at number 17, there's a phone call saying, please answer. Who are you calling?
I'm sorry. Where does it
May I
say?
approach?
Yes.
Oh, that's the number right
This
there.
would be the number. This would be the calling. This would
Okay.
be-
Okay, so it's John O'Keefe. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Number 17, phone call, please answer. Who are you calling?
John O'Keefe.
Do you know at that point where he is?
No.
459-49, number 18. Karen is worried. We need to find you.
John O'Keefe.
504-40, number 19. Please answer so I know you're okay. Who are you calling?
John O'Keefe.
Number 26, 515-41, 129. Okay, I'm trying to call people. I will be in touch soon. Do you know who you're calling?
Don't recognize the number.
What are you thinking at this point?
Trying to find people. I'm trying to call people so that I can try to find John.
Number 31, 522-57, 129. Okay, I tried to Beatty. Okay, I just talked to her. What are you referring to?
I don't know whose number this is.
Okay.
Um,
At this point in the morning, you're making these phone calls. Do you know where John is?
no, I have no idea where he is.
Turn to number 48, 129-22 at 8:44.
Yeah, that's true.
You're texting any update. What is your state of mind?
Which number is this?
Number 48.
48. I believe that may be to Kerry Roberts, and I'm trying to get an update from the hospital.
You were asked about your relationship with Kerry Roberts. At that time, before that night, how many times had you met her?
Once.
And you said in the moment, did that relationship change?
Yes, instantly.
Was it for collusion?
No.
Let me ask you, number 160, this is 129 at 2 in that afternoon. Do you have 160?
Sorry.
It's okay.
I think I agree with this. Full melt hash values, there's no way to rehab the points defense made across. That's why I didn't even attempt to address them. Just ask whether and assert some texts that are relevant. Yeah, I mean, he's bringing out that she texted John O'Keefe that same early morning after she got the call from Karen. Why isn't she calling him? Yeah, she does look defeated.
Okay, I'm here.
160. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can't stop seeing him in the snow. Jen, this is awful. Who's that from?
As I said yesterday, she's really looking guilty here. I mean, she just does not look comfortable. She's very defensive. Her performance is basically about as bad as you can get. I mean, this is way worse than even her first trial where she was very aggressive and snarky to the defense.
Kerry.
Is your state of mind collusion?
No.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Don't ask it again, please, Mr. Brennan.
168.
Rehearsed.
129-22 at 2:04:32. You're calling Miss Roberts. Every time I close my eyes, it's all I see. I feel like I'm going to vomit. I just can't even. I know how close you two were. Can't imagine how hard the situation is for you. Does this reflect your state of mind that day?
Yeah.
Vomit. Is that vomit something you do when you're suffering the loss of somebody, a tragic loss? That's more of a reaction to when you are feeling guilty about something, you're worried about getting caught, right? So you get nauseous when you feel impending tragedy to yourself, tragedy of somebody else you loved and they're dying. You're going to feel sad and in shock. But I don't think nauseous is one of the reactions, right? Reaction of nausea is something that terrible is happening to you and you feel guilty about it. What do y'all think?
I'll allow it.
We have to approach
Objections noted. Next question.
this. You need to approach on this particular text.
Come to Sidebar.
Good. Keep pressing it. Be aggressive. Let the judge know you're going to tie up this court. This trial is going to be delayed weeks longer because you're going to keep making sidebars. If you have to just wear out, put worn paths up to the court bench there, the judge's bench, going up that many times to fight to try to get what you should get into evidence. Rosemary Gallagher, I hope Judge Cannoni realized the damage she has done to the Commonwealth. People have lost their faith and respect for the judiciary system. She should be held accountable. I totally concur with that. How can you all have any respect and hold your heads high if you're part of the judiciary up there in Massachusetts? When you got this kind of a railroad job going on? What a disgraced embarrassment. shameful. It really is.
This number's, I won't read it, but this number on top, whose number is that?
That is mine.
And the bottom number is who it's going to?
Yes.
So this text message, is this what you wrote
Yes, it is.
to Carrie?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I won't read that last text message again. However, it is correct that text message was from you to Ms. Roberts, number 168.
Yes, it was.
And the response in this text message, number 169, from Ms. Roberts to you, you were also, this is awful, Jen, I'm in shock.
Yes.
Number 170. And this one is from Ms. Roberts to you, 129:22 at 2:05:45. I literally am having wine. I don't know what to do. Calm down.
Yes.
Hello.
171 at 2:06:35 on 129:22 from you to Ms. Roberts. I know I am definitely in shock and it keeps hitting me. I just feel so sick. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I'm going to read one more. 172. And this is from Ms. Roberts to you at 2:13:41 on 129:22. I don't know what to even do. I'm so sorry for both of us. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Number 175. Again to Ms. Roberts, 2:14:15, 129:22. Do you text, I talked to Peggy, I am devastated for them?
Yes.
Look at, she's just saying yes, no type stuff. Defense could object to leading the witness. I guess it's none of this is significant. She's not being rehabilitated by this. I think Hank is just trying to do something to not look so bad, but he's got to realize she's not going to be brought back to life here. She's pretty much dead in the water.
And did you follow up seconds later at 2:14:56 on 129:22? I am so sick to my stomach.
Yes.
That day, did you have to speak to your children about what happened?
I did. Yes.
Was that part of your state of mind that day?
Yes.
I'll allow that.
Yeah, this judge tries to salvage this Jen McCabe way too many times. So a judge should not be doing that. Nurse Kimberly from Kansas, her eyes and facial expressions makes it her looks like she's lying and hiding something. Just not credible at all. Not there's not one iota of credibility here.
Number 208 or 207. You receive a text from this number. I don't want to say it out loud, but if you could read it, 207. Do you know who that's from?
I don't.
Okay, we'll move to the next one then. 208, 129:22, 340, 206. I've never felt so sick. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Number 210, 433:40, 129:22.
Yeah, that's a good point. Eliza Grogan and Jackson couldn't get a yes or no from the most simple things. So yeah, this is.
You text messaging somebody?
Yes.
Do you know who that is?
I don't. Just
No,
off
no.
of the number.
Okay. And this text message, is this from you to somebody?
Yes.
My mind is racing. I have that awful feeling in my gut like I am about.
I'll allow it. Sent by this witness allegedly.
My mind is racing. I have that awful feeling in my gut like I am about to puke. Besides seeing the awful
Man, a lot of talk about puking and barfing here. What's going on?
image, trying to wrap my head around what happened to him. Is that accurate?
I mean, think about it. If they're trying to have some kind of an alibi and state of mind kind of thing, they're trying to like make it look like, oh, this is so upsetting for them. Then are they thinking about, hey, we need to have some text messages so how upset we are about losing John O'Keefe?
Yes.
$213. This is on 129/22 at 4:38:20. Do you know who was texting you?
Yes.
Who?
My friend.
Once things settle, you need to talk to someone and process the trauma. And then 214, you respond. 129/22, 4:40:38. I have been shaking since this AM. I feel so sick. Everything started to be a blur and all run into each other.
Yes.
And this is at 4:40:38 at 129/22.
Yes.
And during that day, you've spoken to law enforcement
Yes.
and the days that follow.
Yes.
This is so boring. You're not scoring any points on rehab here, counselor. I do think he has. I can't think of a more annoying voice than this Hank Brennan. Sorry.
I'm going to move to 129/22, 752. If you look at number 289, please.
Wow, born a Hawkeye. You must be from Iowa. I'm so sorry that you had your brother murdered. Man, that's tragic. You say your friend told me she vomited after I told her what occurred. On the other hand, was panic, grief-stricken, and wanted answers. I couldn't sleep, never nauseated. Sorry you had to deal with that.
Okay.
At 289, is this a text from your sister, Nicole?
Yes.
Any update? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And you were shown this text at 292,
Yes.
and you texted your sister, Kerry talked to cops, kept it simple.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
You're saying I think he's trying to show her compassionate side and that she suffered trauma. Okay. It's just, sorry, it's falling on deaf ears. Jury's not going to believe that.
I mean, the cops had gone to her house, but she had a long day and been drinking some wine. So she said she just made it quick.
And you were sharing that with your sister?
Yes.
And was your sister part of many of these texts as part of your support group?
Yes.
Did anybody tell you that you shouldn't rely on your family and have a conversation about what you went through?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No, no one did.
And during that text time, the one I just read to you was at 7:54:38. She turned to 296, 129,
It's all self-serving text here.
922 at 7:56.
And the prosecutor's the one asking her the question. So everything the prosecutor asks, she's going to be 100% total recall,
6:50.
right?
Did your sister text you, okay, try get some sleep, talk tomorrow?
Yes.
And did you text back at 7:57? Yes, but don't feel pressure.
Yes.
And the next one, 298 at 7:57:07. Was your sister asking you for any updates?
Yes.
And at 7:57:13, did she text you, I love you, don't beat yourself up, you did the best you could?
Yes.
Her feeling sad and remorseful, all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is your rebuttal.
And
Redirect
just a few minutes later,
rebut
one
what the
at
defense
number
brought out.
308, please, 129:22 at 8:01 p.m.
Mhm.
Did your sister again write to you, okay, text me in the AM if you hear anything later?
Yes.
You continue texting with her?
Yes.
You were asked about timeline?
Yes.
If you turn to number 761, please.
$761.
761, please.
What page is that on?
248.
I'm missing page 248.
You don't have a 2-page 48?
No, it stops at 212 and picks up at 253.
May I stand with the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Could you remind us who asked you to put together a timeline?
Peggy.
Peggy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
2 days later, January 31st, 2022, and this is at 10:26:29 a.m. Are you texting Ms. Roberts?
I am.
I have spent the AM trying to process that he is really gone and try to piece together all the events. Is that part of the process of the timeline?
Yes.
Yeah, that really hurts your case if you don't tell witnesses not to talk to each other.
At some point,
But this had no semblance of a normal investigation. I'm sorry, lost my spot there.
Did I misunderstand?
No, I'd say there were some right outside of 34 Fairview, but the first vehicle pulled up kind of right just on the right.
A little bit ahead there.
and during that text time, the one I just read to you was at 7:54:38. If you turn to 296, 129:22 at 7:56:50. Did your sister text you, okay, try get some sleep, talk tomorrow?
Yes.
And did you text back at 7:57? Yes, but don't feel pressure.
Yes.
And the next one, 298 at 7:57:07. Was your sister asking you for any updates?
Yes.
I don't think they're going to back off. If they have doubts, they don't want to come to the realization of what's going on here. I think it'll take a full acquittal before and maybe some years before it starts to sink in, or maybe it'll never sink in. I think it's too hard for them to open that door to think that really we've been lied to this whole time by the Commonwealth.
And at 7:57:13, did she text you, I love you, don't beat yourself up, you did the best you could?
Yes.
Yes, Jen McCabe, there's no sign of emotion, no tears, none of that. You would never know this is somebody she loved the way she testifies in this case.
And just a few minutes later, one at number 308, please, 129:22 at 8:01 p.m.
Mhm.
Did your sister again write to you, okay, text me in the AM if you hear anything later?
Listen to that
Yes.
voice.
Can you continue texting with her?
Yes.
You were asked about timeline.
Yes.
If you turn to number 761, please.
Yeah.
$761.
761, please.
What page is that on?
248.
I'm missing
So
page
boring, guys. As
248.
prosecutor, if you're
You don't have it
wasting
to
your
page 48?
time, just read
No,
through
it
this.
stops at 212 and picks up at 253.
May I stand with the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
You're not rehabbing this witness. She's toast.
Can you remind us who asked you to put together a timeline?
Peggy.
Stick a fork in it,
Peggy.
Hank.
Yes.
You're done with.
2 days later, January 31st, 2022, and this is at 10:26:29 a.m.
Him towering over her like that looks really odd. Looks really strange, doesn't it?
Are you texting Ms. Roberts?
I am.
I have spent the AM trying to process.
This is the most boring thing to listen to. The jury's probably totally checked out. And look at the judge giving Hank the side eye, but she's not swiveling in a chair. She's not giving him messages like, hey, can you move on? You're not scoring any points here, counselor. You're wasting the court's time. You don't hear any of that, or see that any of that out of him.
That he is really gone and try to piece together all the events. Is that part of the process of the timeline?
Yes.
He could ask the witness to turn the page. He could step back. These should all be tabbed out. Looks really strange. Yeah.
At some point,
He's testifying.
on the 31st, was something happening
He's testifying. She's really not doing much testifying at all.
around Fairview Road that you learned?
I believe there was police presence.
Was there any presence from the media, the press?
Oh, yes, there was.
Was that causing any concern?
Oh, now she starts swerving in her chair. Okay, finally.
I believe I talked to Peggy and she was,
Assisting.
So on January 31st, 2022, we're at number 864.
Mhm.
You're receiving information. Do you know who this number is? It's calling you?
that's my sister,
Which one?
Nicole.
And she's texting you, news people came by and knocked on the door again. They're all leaving now, Peggy and them left about 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
And then at 1 o'clock, 18 seconds on 1:32:22, you text back, did you answer the door?
Correct.
Was this part of your state of mind on the 31st, what was going on around the house?
Yes.
Just a few more.
Come on, hurry up. This is so boring.
In trying to recount for people who asked you that morning and over the next couple days, some of what's reflected in those text messages, was that part of your state of mind?
Yes.
Was it in any way affecting the way you were remembering and thinking about what had happened?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
All this state of mind stuff. I mean, we've been hearing about that for over a half hour now. It's really bizarre.
Your Honor, subject to redactions, I would seek to introduce all of Ms. McCabe's text messages.
So we'll deal with that. Wait. Is there an objection?
There is.
We'll deal with that later.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right. Here we have recross. There's not really much to
Mr. McCabe,
recross.
a couple of follow-up questions. You indicated on redirect examination that there were no sirens that you heard that morning with the approach of the first responders. Is that right?
I don't believe there was.
But they did have their lights on.
I saw a spotlight, yes, and I do believe they had lights on, yes.
Flashing red and blue lights or red lights, some combination thereof, correct?
Correct.
That was cruisers, police cruisers, correct?
Yes.
There were fire SUVs, in other words, a captain of a fire department.
Possibly.
There were fire trucks and fire engines. You know the difference?
No.
Fire engine, big one with a ladder on it.
Yes.
There's an ambulance, correct?
Yes.
And all of them had their emergency lights on.
Most likely, yes.
All of them had their motors running.
They probably didn't have their sirens on because of you. That's what I would have asked her. You never said somebody is, it's a cop, hurry, send some help right away. That had every siren on from every vehicle in that probably a 20-mile area converging on 34 Fairview, but you downplayed it and said, is this somebody passed out in the snow? Yeah, maybe I think he's dead. You just act like you've not done anything to really see what accurately is going on and assess what's going on there. You never mentioned this is outside of Brian Albert's home, your sister-in-law's husband, who's a Boston cop. The lights are out at their place. Something creepy is going on here. You need to send help right away. None of that happened.
I'm not sure if they were all running. They could have been, yes.
Certainly you would agree that there was a cacophony of diesel engines and gasoline engines and internal combustion engines that were running right outside of 34 Fairview, although no sirens, correct?
I wouldn't exactly say right outside of 34 Fairview. I'd say there were some right outside of 34 Fairview, but the first vehicle pulled up kind of right just on the right end, and most of the vehicles with the lights on were to the left. So they were actually more in front of 32 Fairview. But there were vehicles. There was Miss Roberts' vehicle, and then I believe another vehicle pulled up. I think I remember from seeing the dash cam.
And Sarah's cruiser, correct?
Yes.
And Mulaney's cruiser, just on the other side of Terry Roberts' vehicle, correct?
Yes, I don't believe lights were on. His lights were on.
And there was an ambulance just to the left and behind Sarah's vehicle, correct?
Yes, which would have been in front of 32 Fairview.
Lights on that as well,
Yes,
all facing in the direction of 34 Fairview, correct?
facing, but out front of 32.
So is there a reason that you're so resistant to admit that there was a cacophony of sound and noise outside of 34 Fairview?
No.
Okay, so there was, correct?
I wouldn't use such a big word in front of a jury.
Outside on the front lawn, yes, side lawn.
And there was also some people yelling and screaming at a high pitch, right?
Yes,
Both Miss Reed, who was yelling and screaming, correct?
correct.
And Miss Roberts, who at least at some point told her to shut the fuck up, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about the stop at 34 Fairview on the way to Sergeant Lang's house on redirect examination by Mr. Brennan just now, correct?
I was, yes.
He showed you a couple of pages of your transcript from that question and answer, correct?
I believe he showed me a page, yes.
And you noted that this was a question and answer.
I mean, I think jury one, like I say, the main thing had to have been that cop as a foreperson, and then you have jury instructions that are a convoluted, hot mess. And think about it, this foreperson did not allow the jurors to ask questions. So he basically hijacked the whole process to try to get a conviction on Karen. So that's what happened. So that's an outlier. And the problem is you have this judge putting such control on what jurors are kept off the jury of 18. So it is sort of a heavily influenced system, way more than I've seen for civil criminal cases. And but I just got to believe that the folks there on this jury cannot be that gullible to fall for this garbage we've heard from the prosecution's witnesses thus far.
Answer from a hearing last year in this courtroom.
Yes,
And you admitted that you stopped, but actually, let me rephrase that. You were confronted with the fact that
Yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't show the neighbor's picture. I would have done that as well. I would have gone back and played the 911 tape and reemphasized those key points of a man in the snow passed out and the way she downplayed it.
you stopped at 34 Fairview on the way to Officer Lang's house, Sergeant Lang's house, by me on cross-examination, correct?
yes, you asked me.
You also indicated that you have never refused to speak to the police, any law enforcement officer in this case, correct?
I've spoken when but asked to, yes.
But in point of fact, when you were approached by the two law enforcement agents who were not connected to Massachusetts State Police or to Canton PD, you suspended that interview and refused to answer further questions, correct?
I welcomed them in my house, sat with them, and then I stopped, and then I met with them a few times after, and I answered all their questions that they asked. I helped clear up some misconceptions that they had been told. And as you know, I know they're no longer investigating. So I think I helped them well.
And you're obviously well aware that in that first interview, you stopped the interview cold and refused to answer further questions, correct?
Good point.
I said, I'm going to stop and I'm going to seek some counsel. Yes.
Look how she's holding her eyes closed. She knows this does not look good. This looks really bad. Saying she stopped an FBI interview because she wants to talk to a lawyer, her lawyer, not find a lawyer, but talk to her lawyer.
The text messages.
I would have gone into the whole lawyer bit. How much you've been paying him? How long have you had him? All that kind of stuff. I don't know if there's some kind of sealed motion, but I was really disappointed not to see this come out.
You just read a series of text messages that Mr. Brennan actually read for you and you agreed with, correct?
Correct.
Were any of the text messages that you just read in the group chat that I showed you in cross-examination?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
And that group chat included you, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, and Matt McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And that was a private chat among the four of you. Is that right?
That's just a chat with them. Yes.
You read some text messages to and from Carrie Roberts, correct?
Yes.
You had just met Carrie Roberts. Isn't that right?
Yes.
She's not a McCabe. Is that right?
Correct.
She's not an Albert, correct?
Correct.
You even read some text messages with your minor children, correct?
Just now?
Yeah.
I don't believe any with my children.
Mr. Brennan asked you about a couple of text messages, or at least one text message with your children, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
Objection.
She can answer that question. Is that what happened?
Did I misunderstand?
No, I honestly didn't read anything from my children. I think one, I said a friend, another time I didn't know who it was, but I do know my children's phone numbers, and no, it was
Okay.
none of my kids.
Obviously,
There she is, squeezing her eyes again.
the kids are not on that group chat, that private group chat that we went over, correct?
Oh, yes, correct. They're not.
Well, let's talk about those unidentified numbers. You said this is a number I don't recognize, and Mr. Brennan read to you a text to that person, correct?
Yes,
Whoever that is, that person's not a McCabe, correct?
they're not correct.
And that person's not an Albert.
They could be. Again, it could have been Chris Al, but Julie, I don't. One of the numbers I didn't recognize because I have everybody in my phone with the name, so I don't recognize every number.
And that person certainly was not in that group chat with you, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, and Matt McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And then there was a friend. You said this is a friend, and I don't need you to identify the friend, but whoever this unidentified friend is, that friend is not a McCabe and is not an Albert, correct?
Correct.
And that friend was also not in that group chat that we went over in cross-examination. Is that right?
Correct.
These are all people outside of that group,
She doesn't.
among whom you engaged in the chat that we saw, correct?
Correct.
And that includes Carrie Roberts. She was not included in that group chat where you talked about the case and talked about what she was and wasn't doing with law enforcement, right?
Correct. It was just my sister, my brother-in-law, and husband.
Now, just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Getting to the end here. Her lawyer's sitting in the courtroom right there. This is Reddington, no doubt.
No, that's all I have.
All right. Ms. McCabe, you are all set. Thank you very much.
All right, so there you have it.
Thank you.
Pretty much all the damage was done all through the many hours of cross-examination before this recross. This
All right.
recross really didn't need to
I'd like to
do
play it.
much of anything because there was no rehabilitation that Hank Brennan did. So overall, I think this is probably I'd give them an A minus for the cross examination on her. I think that this is good enough to completely check her off as a non-credible witness. She actually helped the defense. She actually helps prove that there was nothing out there to see for John's body laying in the yard after 12:45 and even before 12:45. So we got a lot of activity going on in that front yard and street area from 12:30 to up to 12:50, and the prosecution is now saying that John was struck around 12:31, 12:32 ish. So it's just not credible to think that Karen was involved in this when she actually had an alibi and was back at John's place at 12:36. So we know that because the Wi-Fi connected to her phone at that time. So that is a rock solid alibi for Karen. And how can they even think that they have a case? I just don't get it why this thing has even gone to trial. But crazy things happen when you have people that are tied politically and you have an officer that's killed. Somebody's got to go to trial. Karen was the outsider, so she's the easy target. Hanker, you're saying you don't see Reddington in that courtroom. There's no room for him. Well, if somebody has a witness has an attorney, the attorney's going to be in the courtroom. They can't block him and say you can't get access. So that's and we don't have a full pan shot of everybody there. So I'm pretty sure that he would be there. Lawyer nurse, I have no doubt Reddington did all their witness prep with her and then met Brennan a few times she was mentioned. There's probably guidance from Brennan, so they did a workaround that way. So anyway, that's what I would have flushed out if I was crossing her. It's like, well, who prepped you? Somebody had to prep you. You drastically changed the way you came across from your first trial to the second trial here. Yep, but that never happened, right? A jury member will believe that? Are you kidding me? A 507 call for 38 seconds. You're right, Leah Baker. That's all you need to know. And the 227 search, that's going to come out that it happened actually at 227. California girl 209. Yes, this whole case is shocking from top to bottom. Leslie, another Leslie. Why were Peggy and Paul missing? Do they have to make room for Jen's private nurse event? She had a panic attack. Well, I wonder if they left because they realized how much damage Jen McCabe's done to the government's case. Hello in Belgium. Lynn Downing, when Jen did the wide-eye zigzag look, she was looking at Brendan Judge and lawyer, maybe. Yeah, that was really weird. I don't know if that's some kind of signal going on, but that definitely was really strange behavior. Yeah, I mean, those butt dials, think about it. We got more butt dials to talk about with the upcoming witnesses. Brandy says, I think they left because they don't believe her anymore and the case is blowing up. That could be it. Why would they stick around? All right, now can somebody look to see this guy sitting there with the tie? That doesn't look like a normal spectator, right? Can somebody do a search on Google and see if he's got a photo on his website? Is that the guy? I know he represented that doctor in a murder case they recently had there, but I never saw it. I don't know what he looks like. Yeah, the black suit guy. Yeah, he does sort of look like a Fed guy as well. Federal marshal. I don't think they'd have a federal marshal there. They don't say it looks like Reddington. Yeah, I don't know. Some people are saying he's a Fed. Sam, you're saying it's Lieutenant John Fanning. Okay. Anyway, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure with all her grand jury testimony that she's going to be having her attorney there in the courtroom to advise her, especially when she goes day to day like she has. So standing, where's the 3 liters of blood? It's not in the snow. No, it wasn't. That right there is reasonable doubt. Okay, folks saying it's Carl Dougal. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, to me, he doesn't look like a cop, though. I mean, like an attorney. He looks like more like a cop. Hidden metadata. That's Carl Dugan, John's partner. Okay. Apparently, he'd be from the Boston PD as well. Then. All right, moving on. I'll take a few more questions here. All right, what about the guy in the gray suit and the further right there? Is that maybe the attorney? Now that looks like a lawyer there on the far right more. Yeah, the guy in the dark suit. Yeah, okay. Kimberly Williams writing to the older guy in the gray suit. Okay. I don't know why they wouldn't have pointed that out. I sure would have. That is a huge thing to reference. So think about it. He's probably charging her $1,000 an hour or more, maybe $1,500 an hour, and he's sitting there watching her testify all these hours on direct and cross. That's a lot of money she's paying. And if all you doing is telling the truth and you got nothing to hide and you got all these connections with folks in the community, including law enforcement, why would you hire a lawyer? John Barth Art, why no real mention of the previous testimony? Even to talk about how she changed in her memory, the number of times she says, I don't recall. It's just complete night and day difference. So I just think that, yeah, they could have scored more points, but her memory here was so, the way she was just bobbing and weaving and trying to push the Alan Jackson out on ice skates. I think it's very much the defense did their job they needed to do. BS, you're saying once this is all over, is there going to be some federal indictments? I hope so. Constance Chapman, did Jen open the door and allowing the FBI to be identified? She mentioned investigation, so hopefully the jury puts that together, but I'm sure the judge won't let anything more come in than that. They probably crossed the line and got more out of it than the judge wanted. Sandy, how can stakes be high for witnesses, though, unless they're guilty? Well, they're worried about being prosecuted for something, right? Julie Jacobus, still can't believe there's a police officer's juror for the last trial and that they were made a 4-person. I have no idea. I have no idea how they made it on. Maybe this came across really likable or something, and the defense thought, well, we can maybe take a chance on him. He turned medical and didn't like being a cop. He only served like 4 years or so. Yes, I think if they pushed any more, it would have looked like badgering. Then she wins. This way, she just looks combative. Yeah, they did the damage they needed to do on her, so. Yeah, jurors are provided a transcript if they need to look back. Rosemary Gallagher, my heart goes out to the Reeds. They're wonderful people that have never missed a day in 3 years. Yeah, can you imagine Mr. and Mrs. Reed, what they have to go through? Then Karen as well. It's like unreal. Leslie, you'd like to know why the court had a private Zoom meeting with her? Not. I think that was security, court security, talking about how they're going to arrange her transportation there at the courthouse. She probably got a police escort to the courthouse and back home. Helen, do I think the defense has been listening to my advice regarding being more aggressive and pushing back with the judge? Don't know, but just glad they are, because I think it really has made a difference. And the more you push back against a judge that's so far supporting the prosecution every way, every step and turn, it's like you're fighting the prosecution and the judge. You're not getting a fair trial. You need to fight back. You got nothing to lose. I mean, the judge is totally trying to hijack you from having a constitutional defense. So you got to push back. And like I say, if you take time and drag this thing out by making all these arguments, you're just going to win on that alone, because the judge isn't going to want to constantly have stuff built on the record. I doubt they're challenging her on her bias and asking for a mistrial based on her bias and prejudice against the defense, but that's something I'd be doing if this was my case in Texas. Hey, you're saying you really do see how loving these reads are. Padlin, you're asking, does anyone get the distinct impression Peggy might be contemplating she's been duped? I thought I saw a weird reaction from her towards the end of Jen's testimony. Think about it. They don't even have Proctor yet testifying. The two Bryans. I mean, they got major damage control every single witness. Trooper Paul, are they going to call Trooper Paul even if he's on the witness list? I'd be surprised if they call him. That's yet another whacked out theory on how John O'Keefe died. So I just don't get it. Hold on a second. Let me exit the full screen. Yeah, damage control every move. Harry's mom, jurors only get to look at their notes, no transcripts. They denied that last trial. Wow, if that's the case, they don't have anything read back. That's another weird thing in Massachusetts. That's just the weirdest place to try a case. I've never heard of such a thing. So crazy. Katie K, is Brennan calling witness in such a screwy order to confuse the jury? I don't think his order is that strange considering what issues he has with all these different witnesses. So I think they didn't end with Jen on Friday. They had a toxicologist from the state lab testify. So, but Jen ending on a Friday early afternoon, I think is a good thing for the defense, because jurors got to be thinking about what a crazy testimony that she had. And I think even the toxicologist, I think Jen having some alcohol in her helps explain maybe why she's acting the way she was and not acting as calm and rational as normally she would be, and why she's freaking out more. So I think it's more, it makes her more sympathetic. And if the jurors think that, well, she should have been driving, yeah, okay, well, neither should have these cops. They had to have had more than Karen had. Right, yeah, I'm going to do one more question here. Then we'll call it a night. Yeah, they're not calling the medical examiner. So what kind of case, who doesn't call the medical examiner on a murder case? Keir Anderson, how reliable is body language as an attorney? I think body language is a key thing. I always look for eye movement. When people squint their eyes, squeeze their eyes, I think that's a sign that they have consciousness of lying. We saw some of that from Jen, or their eyes flutter, or how they look away and stuff like that. That's not always an indicator, but you have many of the different telltale signs for Jen McCabe as well. Just her inconsistent statements, her evasive answers, selective memory loss, all this kind of stuff. I mean, you have all of them there for the most part with Jen McCabe, and it was repeat, recurrent, ongoing. She has perfect answers, quick, easy answers for the prosecutor, and then just struggles and fights and claims she needs to see everything, and then she rejects saying that a transcript of what she said or notes from the cops and their police reports of what she said. She says that doesn't help refresh her memory. I've never seen a witness be that foolish and deny that. So why is she making all these desperate efforts to try to help the prosecution and with the defense? Her memory just goes complete out the window. It's just not credible. She went from being feisty and aggressive with Jackson the first trial to this time she's saying that she's on the apology tour. So anyway. All right, it's getting late. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. Thanks for supporting justice. And I'll be back here this coming week. Not sure about tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, there's plenty of stuff I could cover as well. But may want to take one night off. So we'll see about that. And I may talk about also in the coming days, talk about what's going on in the Adelson case down there in Florida. There is a continuance. We don't have a court date yet for the trial of 75-year-old Donna Adelson, accused of being a co-conspirator and co-defendant of the murder of FSU law professor Dan Markell. So more to follow on that, but you all have a safe rest of the weekend, and we'll be back soon. Take care. Have a